Over the last few weeks, I've been pretty deep into study, so I haven't been able to post as frequently as I'd like to. But there's an episode that I've wanted to do for a while, and it's basically the topic is getting the most out of the gym. I've got a friend of mine, he's been a friend of mine for a long time. His name's Tom Lowe. He's a personal trainer at City Fitness in Christchurch. We've answered a set of questions throughout this episode that are tailored around the gym experience. Some of them are a bit on the light side, some of them are a bit more serious, but the idea is to give you guys a taste of the gym experience and some of the things that we all face but are not often talked about. In this episode, Tom and I will dive deep into the world of fitness. We'll explore the strategies, techniques and mindset required to optimize your gym experience. Tom's been a pillar of support in my own fitness journey, and I've witnessed firsthand the incredible impact that he's made on the lives of his clients. He's not just a trainer, he takes his job extremely seriously. He's a motivator, he's a coach, and he's a true friend who genuinely cares about helping others achieve their goals. Before we get too deep into it, I'll introduce Tom and we'll get this started. Welcome back to The Social Wildlife. Cool, so I've got Tom Lowe here. Tom is a friend of mine. We've been friends for...
It's
got to be longer than that.
8 years now.
2015, 16, yeah. Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
15. That's when I came to New Zealand.
Shit, yeah. So that's 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. So we've been friends since then. Were you a PT back then?
No, so I came here as a builder to New Zealand.
Yeah.
That was kind of the initial, and then I just wanted to change the lifestyle. Cool. Working for myself and have my own freedom. And
you were still into the gym then, though, when you came here?
Yes, yeah. So I've been training, by fitness background, I've been training for about 16 years now. So I'm 27, started when I was kind of 15 and really got into it, 16 cool. plus.
Yep.
Yeah.
Today's episode is about getting the most out of the gym, and what I'm trying to achieve here is giving anyone who is into the gym currently or thinking about getting into the gym just a basic set of kind of tools or a perspective that they can use to kind of get the most out of it. And that includes everything from mindset, how you're going to behave or act when you're in there, planning your days, all that kind of stuff. And what I've got a list of questions that I've had people submit that we're going to answer, or that we're going to go through. Tom's a friend of mine. As I said, we've been friends for about 7 years. So I'll start with some questions for you, Tom. What do you do for work?
So I am a personal trainer 50% of the time, and also a kind of newly fledged property developer. Also the other part, which is just a nice change, and from kind of that self-employed lifestyle to having a wee bit more security.
Cool. When did you start with the property development?
So that was started just over 2.5 years ago.
Sweet.
And just wanted something that's going to give me that kind of passive income and really allow me to, travel back, see family more, and just make a shitload more money.
it's multiple streams of income, eh? You just can't invest everything into one.
Yeah.
One thing. There's obviously a lot of potential there as well. Cool. So what is a common myth about your job or your field of expertise that you're aware of?
A common myth would be that all trainers are in shape.
Right.
Which not every trainer needs to be in shape.
Yep.
There's also very knowledgeable trainers that are, whether that's kind of a rehab, not everyone has to be a Gold Coast big jack dude covered in tats to be, good. Myself personally, and with my clients, they definitely look up to me, and because the ethic that I have in my training and, physique, it does help.
Yep.
But yeah, absolutely. It's down to really the knowledge. You can have some really kind of geeky guy who's just an awesome trainer too.
Knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
I remember, people said to me, you wouldn't trust a homeless person for financial advice and things like that. And obviously if you go to the gym and you think about, I've got quite an overweight trainer, you think, okay, maybe this person doesn't know what they're talking about if they don't have the discipline to maintain their own weight. But
100%.
At the same time, there's so many circumstances.
There is circumstances.
Like they could be diabetic. There could be all sorts of things that are hindering their ability to lose weight or gain weight.
And don't get me wrong, there is portions in the industry where they are overweight and they are kind of lazy, and they're doing it because they think the personal training journey is easy, and they just kind of get into it, and they haven't got that drive anyway to there
are going to be those people. For sure. Cool. What does your morning routine look like?
So it's a 5 a.m. start usually. And it would be head off to work, first client, so I'll rock up about 20 minutes early, first client 6 a.m, and I'll usually do a block of about 4 in the morning, and then kind of mid-morning would be train myself, which is super important, which kind of I'll touch on later. For the job, you've got to be in it yourself, even though people think, you training everyone and, you can stay fit like that. What the big misconception is I don't train with my clients.
Right.
I train my clients, and that's it. Some trainers in some industries, whether it's kind of that group class scenario, they like to train with them, but it's very separate.
When you say train with them, you mean like actually get a workout done yourself?
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And you get multiple PTs that do like to train with their clients, maybe as a one-off. But it's very strict. They're my client. I'm giving the best for them. If I'm training, I'm going to be selfish. It's going to be for me.
That session is about them.
100%.
Yeah. That's a great way to be. So, where were you raised, and what kind of upbringing did you have?
So, I was raised in the northeast of England. I went to a Rudolf Steiner school, which is like alternative education.
Yeah, I think we've got one here.
Which there's one in Christchurch, which is really good for getting kids not to be too pushed into that whole curriculum of exams, and it really allows them to, build up their people skills, build up their confidence. And I think that's why I've got a big advantage when it comes to training in the fitness industry, is my people skills and being able to kind of read people and being really kind of, I guess, at one with myself has really helped me. So I was born in Scarborough, which is a little seaside village, and we pretty much had quite a simple life. We got everything that we needed within reason, and my family are all self-employed, slash freelancers, and
you're following suit.
And just following suit as well. I think it does take something from someone to work for yourself.
Absolutely. Stepping out of that security of a 9 to 5 where 100%. Someone else is paying you every week is a big step. I feel like once you've done it, it's unlikely you'll go back.
Exactly.
as long as it's successful.
Exactly. And that's what happened with, when I came to New Zealand as a builder for a year here, and I just didn't enjoy it. I loved the building, but I just really didn't enjoy the whole side of, that 9 till 5 and not being able to like have my own time when I wanted to. The
risk is really worth it, isn't it? Like getting out of that requirement to kind of like be at someone else's whim, when you can actually just dictate your days is so important. It's the most freeing thing, I reckon.
Absolutely. And just yes, it can be harsh, if you're sick, or when COVID was happening, it's as freelancers, self-employed, you really get kind of the worst end of the stick. But at the same time, when it's a beautiful sunny day and you want to go to the beach on a Friday and everyone's at work. That's right. And there's obviously perks. There's perks that exist, government help and things. It does exist for people that are self-employed, not anywhere near as much as employers will get. There was a resurgent support and a few other supports during COVID, which did help.
That's good. Cool. So what's your favourite childhood memory?
My favourite childhood memory would have to be for my 11th birthday. My brother was currently studying basically in London. So he was studying in London, and he came down for a weekend, and I wasn't actually home at the time. I was at the beach with my dad. And I remember coming home, and it was my birthday the next day. And I knew he was coming back, and I was, just enjoying myself at the beach, playing with the football. And I got home, and there was this note on the bed, this huge, big written note, and just basically saying, I know you're getting mature, and I know you're becoming a an adult slowly. And on the note, it just said, there's something under the bed and you have to be careful with it. And you can't shoot anything with it. This is giving it away now. Yeah. And it was my first air rifle.
Oh, really? And was he there? Your brother was there as well?
And he was there, but he was just like, go have a look upstairs.
Right.
And like, just that feeling of being like 11 years old.
Oh, mate.
And just like, you just feel, you see all these movies and you just...
I would have killed for an air rifle at 11, honestly.
And it was the most incredible feeling ever. And it's just stuck by me. I still got the letter back in the UK.
That's a great memory. Trust me, mate, I can sympathise with that 100% because I would have loved that.
Yeah, it was just incredible. And my mum lost it. But
my mum would have too.
We proved to her that it was just for target practice.
Yeah,
a quote, which later on,
birds.
It got used for things that we ate. So we just went rabbit shooting.
Yeah, cool.
Then I got a bigger one, and it was a really good learning curve as well to be able to respect animals and respect something.
I think it's important at that age.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And now I do like fully fledged hunting, go deer hunting, do everything. But at the end of the day, I feel that it's like a more ethical way than just going to the supermarket.
100%. And it puts you more in touch with real life.
It does. It does. Taking a life, you're not wasteful. You just, it's strong.
Yeah. I think it actually puts us in touch with who we are from an evolutionary perspective too. Like, we're in society now and we get everything's just provided for us and it's factory farmed, a lot of that kind of stuff, and
full of hormones injected. And that's another thing, the fitness, back to the kind of that fitness point is, all this kind of extra estrogen, in chicken breasts and all this stuff that's injected in is just, I would love to be able to afford to buy everything kind of organic, free range, biodynamic, but it's 3 times the price. And in New Zealand as well, especially, organic biodynamic is not as big. Back in Europe and the UK, it's really, really big and it's very readily available.
It's I try and buy organic whenever I can, but you're right, it is far more expensive. What's something that people misunderstand about you most?
That I'm arrogant.
That you are arrogant, or people think you're arrogant?
Yeah, people think that I'm arrogant.
Right, yeah.
Which is definitely mistaken for being confident.
Yeah.
I'm confident. Yeah. I know what I want. I know where I want to be in life.
Yeah.
And I know who I want to do life with, whether that's friends or partners.
Yeah.
I don't stand for bullshit.
No. People, I think people look at anyone who, well, especially people who are... if they're driven, if they're focused on their appearance and things like that, and if they're confident in their appearance, people will put you into a box and say, this guy's arrogant, this guy's full of himself, this guy is a particular type of person. I mean, I get stereotyped because I have tattoos, that I go to the gym, that I'm quite, reasonably obsessed with my physique, trying to improve my physique and things. And then the fact that I'm proud of any achievements I make, if I put that on social media and people are like, okay, you look at him, he's got his shirt off in a photo or whatever.
They think vanity.
He's got to be a piece of shit. He's got to be one of those dudes who treats people like shit and thinks he's the man. And it's like, actually, no, I'm just proud of what I've achieved. I actually came from a very skinny, not confident person. Yeah. So, I can understand that completely. I think, being a lot of people are guilty of putting people in that box.
Yes. And I think that's where, I definitely would get that title because I'm in a very similar situation to what you were just saying then, super skinny in school, was bullied. Yeah. And not bullied so much like as I guess you could say like physical, because I I held myself pretty proud. I got into a couple of fights and, kind of could look after myself, but more just...
emotionally bullied.
Like more like verbally, emotionally, because I'm not really one to start something or stir something. And I can take, and then I go...
And kids like that get targeted because the bullies think he's not giving back. Here's someone that I can prove myself with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then it gets to that point where then you're pushed over and then
all hell breaks loose.
Then you get expelled like me, and then you just turn it around and you just beat the shit out of them. And and that's the thing that they've got to worry about is that they'll be pushing that person into a corner and then eventually it's going to go south. They're going to snap. 100%.
Yeah. Cool. What's an insult you've received that you're proud of?
From the last, I guess you could say, several years, I've really put my head down. I've really hustled.
Yeah.
And, I've pushed to, buy the things that I want to buy, whether that's, kind of new motorbikes, if it's cars. And then obviously the last kind of couple of years, bought my first home and then investment property.
Yep.
And I often get people saying, who are kind of in my age, like, oh, well, you're just like rich, or you're just like, oh, you've got heaps of money. And it's like, well, that's your fact. I've strung myself right on the line to get it.
Yep.
And there's been times where I've been so broke that you could not imagine. But I had all this stuff around me. And these are sacrifices that people are just not willing to make.
No, that's right. Yep. That's great. And they don't see that. They don't actually know what's going on.
They don't see the work that goes in the background. And that's the problem why I think people like you and I get that slate in the gym, is they don't see that we, that we say no to going out partying all the time.
$300 a night in town.
Exactly. Getting on the drugs. Yeah, we've all been there. We've all done that. But as a general, I feel like I'm pretty kind of like stable when it comes to not really wanting to go out on the piss, not really wanting to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, you're the same really now. We've had those days.
Yeah. You're more focused on stability.
Yeah. And that's how we met, actually.
Yeah.
Was on a night out in
that's right.
in Beretta back in the days.
I remember having a chat with you on the lawn of some person's house, close to town somewhere. I remember that, having a chat. Yeah, God, that seems like a long time ago.
Yeah, that was a long, long time ago. Wow.
Cool. What's the biggest challenge that you're facing in your work or life right now, and how are you tackling it?
Becoming a whole new person when it comes to my work and my drive.
Right. You've made a conscious decision.
I've really made a conscious decision. It's time to step it up. Am I getting old? I don't know. 27. Is that old? But I just, I think we're here once, and I've got a time frame, like a 5 to 10 year plan. Where I want to be. And now it's really time to put kind of pedal to the metal. I think the last 2.5, 3 years, I got quite complacent and got a bit too comfortable.
Just cruising.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, you've obviously found a kind of a milestone point where you've had to check in with yourself and make some adjustments.
Yeah. And certain kind of life changes that happened recently have really made me review that and really been like, right, okay, time to put your head down because, you're the one who's running your own life, right?
That's right.
You can't blame it on anyone else why something's happened or why this has happened. And you just have to move through with it.
Yeah. It sounds like a really wise decision. Cool. Who has been your most important mentor?
It's a hard one.
It doesn't have to be one person. I guess I guess like in your top 3 of people that have influenced you the most, or people that you've had kind of face-to-face dealings with.
I'd say going back all the way back to like the childhood side of things, I'd say it was definitely looking up to how my parents, created something from nothing and were in, massive struggle at some points, and then, huge growth. That was probably a childhood mentor. Obviously, I still care about them, still look up to them. I think I'm more of a recent mentor. I've got a client, I won't say his name, but I've got a client who's I train kind of several times a week. And he's really, really just very successful business person. And he, really he's very humble, which is nice to have someone like that. And he really kind of, he subtly checks in on me. Which is nice. Like, have you got that trust set up? Have you, what's happening? Have you got that prenup done? Like, Tom, you better do it. Like, he really just, And then I think probably the latest mentor would be the guy who kind of was running a lot of the development stuff through the men builder for that.
Yeah, cool.
He's just shown me more, not so much like as a life mentor, but how to create a successful business.
So something in that field.
So it's been lots of different mentors along the way.
I think I've always I remember someone telling me a long time ago, and it's kind of stuck with me, that you should always have someone that you're mentoring, someone that is on an even playing field with you, and then someone to mentor you. And that's the key to success. As long as you've got those kind of three people in your life, it's a good balance.
Yeah, no, I like
and that obviously changes at different life stages too, what's important to you, or I guess what area of life you're focusing on.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. And last question for you personally, what is one lesson your job has taught you that you think everyone should learn at some point in their life?
To be patient.
Right, yeah. Is it with clients?
Yeah, with clients that then transfers into life, I guess. Yeah, to be patient, to give back even when you haven't been given something.
Yeah.
I think that's really taught kind of like values wise for me
that's very wise. I like that.
Is just to give back, like, you know, little things. Like I've got a very, very, very deep heart, and it was quite funny this morning. I finished the gym, came out covered in sweat, tired, and I saw this guy come past on an e-scooter. And, you know, you could tell he's either lost his license or he looked like someone who, you know, was maybe kind of in their mid-30s, and he just had like a jumper, and he had his earmuffs actually over his ears, but obviously he's working in a workshop garage opposite the gym.
Right.
And he comes like flying past, and he's like, you know, struggling in the rain and the wind. And my first thought was, I've got like a big high-vis jacket in the boot, and I literally wanted to go give it to him.
Yeah.
And then be like, you know, just have this.
Yeah.
And just little things like that. I think I've really, myself, I feel like I've really like becoming a better person.
Yep. So you can identify an opportunity for him that he needs to improve his life somehow, or improve his safety.
And it's something so small that, you know, it's like a $80 high-vis jacket, you know, that I've got another one at home, and, you know, but he went shooting off into the garage, and then it's kind of, it didn't really eventuate, but
I think you've got to, if everyone thought the way you're describing and thinking, that world would be a much better place. If we were all looking out for each other, and it was like, you know, I've got something here that Tom can use. Tom, do you need this? Yes, I'd love it. Cool, great. And that exchange was happening daily. Yeah, everyone was doing it. It would just, the world would improve like 100-fold. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so we'll crack into these questions. So we've got about, looks like about 20 or 30 of them. Easy, sweet. So, question for both of us: how did you both get into training at the gym?
So, quite an interesting story. Again, I guess a little bit of a backtrack to when I was younger. My brother had a home set up in his garage, well, in his room, sorry, not his garage. And he had an incline bench that was fixed and a crazy amount of weight on it. And I remember one day,
just like a barbell bench.
Yeah. But it was one of those really, you know, those really small ones with the little plates.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like a real home gym.
The small ring.
Yeah, with the small ring. You know, the ones that you screw on, and then when you press, they go loose again. Yeah. And I just remember that one time, I was just when it sat on the bench, and he was in there, and he was like, "Go on, then try it." And then he lifted it off, and it must have been something silly like 50 kilos, something like that. You know, which now is like, it's not even, it's like a warm up, but I remember him lifting it off, and it literally just like squashed me. Yeah. And then he was like, "Come on, then push." And I would just remember just like everything I had, and he lifted it off me. And I think from that day on, I just was like, I want to be able to do that. Yeah. And I remember that was my first official weight, getting my hands on weights. Yeah. And he had weights in his room. And then I remember when I go on sometimes on a night out, that fast forward to when I was like more of a teenager, you know, I'll be getting like a bicep pump before I go out, you know, and you just kind of, there's a bit of vanity with it back then.
Because, of course. Yeah.
You know, just, it makes you feel confident, makes you feel good.
Definitely. As a male too, you want to be capable. Yeah. You want to be capable, and that's where it comes from. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of the same when I was younger. When I saw, you know, weights at people's houses and things, I'd pick them up and be like, "Fuck, people actually do this. You know, people lift this. This is a lot of weight." And when I first started training, my trainer on bench press, for example, to, you know, sit on the same theme, like, I was bench pressing 7.5s. Wow. So that was what I started with. And I was on my back, and I was 63 kilos. That's what I weighed. And I remember my arms kind of flailing around trying to get these 7.5s up. And I remember when I, you know, the milestones hitting 12.5s and hitting 15s and then hitting 20s was like, what the fuck is going on here? 100%. Looking at these 20s, 20 kilo dumbbells, and they were the old metal ones that had multiple plates, but they were stuck together, you know, and I was like, this looks like a lot of weight. And then it was like 60 on the bar suddenly. And I was 100%, like, whoa.
And then
like
you got
220s on.
And then you get like the big milestones that you see, like the big boys doing, repping out the 30 dumbbells and like the 220s aside and barbell.
That just gave me like a shot of memories because the 30s were a milestone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Finally hitting the 30s and seeing, the big boys doing 30s for reps, 12 to 15 easily. You're like, fuck, I want that to be me.
100%.
Yeah, no, I got into the gym when I was 18 and signed up at a council gym. I actually went there for snowboarding. So I was snowboarding and I actually said to my PT, I want to do something for core strength and trunk mobility and to get like spins and also leg strength and leg endurance and stuff.
So you just got a lot more kind of down through your obliques and you just got that better mobility when you twist in.
So he gave me, it was my first trainer was Jason Costa. I don't know if you know who that is. He's I think he's done like Olympic level judo. He's in Christchurch here. He was great. He was actually a really, really good trainer. But he gave me like, a lot of Swiss ball exercises and things for core.
Yeah.
But then I was with my mate who was training at the gym as well, and he was doing a more bodybuilding specific program, and I was watching what he was doing. I was like, fuck, I want to be doing that. So it quickly moved from snowboarding to like gym stuff, and then it was like, oh, okay, this is me. Yeah. So do you think the gym culture has changed since you started training?
Yes, absolutely. I think social media has been a huge player, and just people are way more aware. And people just want to be, majority of younger people want to be more in shape.
I think it's expected, Social media's done this, put this expectation on everyone to be somewhat into the gym.
And it's also put this expectation of you have to look a certain way, which, you could look at that as a negative of, everyone has their own body types, but at the end of the day, if you're looking more in shape, you usually are more in shape. And if you're more in shape, your cholesterol is going to be lower. You're going to be healthier. Your joints, you're less load in your joints, less load and everything. So even though it could be taken as a bad spin, and it can be, especially young females, it can be really kind of pushed upon them.
Yeah.
It's actually, I think, a really great thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you got to be careful with those expectations, because it might be a focus for women on, just go in and train glutes and legs and things like that. But are you working on your core? Do you have that core stability, which is going to prevent injury in your back later in life and things like that?
Yeah, it's a massive one.
It's essential. I mean, and they don't want to, a lot of them don't want to find shoulders or biceps, things like that, which you can understand because they want to look feminine, but, their version of feminine. But it's very important, obviously, to train everything.
100%. A lot of them want to have kind of, I guess, more that kind of that hourglass look. So, a little bit of a smaller upper body, nice and toned, up slightly out through the hips, like quads, glutes, that look, which is great. But at the same time, I've really been seeing recently a lot of females who've really adapted to the bodybuilding style. And I've even seen, it's quite cool to see, you see lots of these things on, I don't have TikTok, but you see on Instagram of these females that are maybe 16, 17, doing like side chest poses and doing tricep, side tri poses. Yeah. And, you see them in the gym doing that now, like with their boyfriends, and it's just like, I've gone up to them and been like, that's awesome.
It's cool. Yeah.
It's so cool to see that.
Yeah. They're moving away from a generic feminine kind of like, I have to look feminine here too. Yeah. I want to show off my achievements.
They're moving away from that kind of that skinny fits type look.
Yes. Yeah.
That whole kind of Britney Spears, straight up and down to, having an ass, having, that they're strong. You see them shoulder pressing, you got the elbow sleeves on.
Yes.
Like they're really into it, like bench pressing.
When they've got the elbow sleeves on, that's when you know they're serious.
Yeah, that's when you know they've kind of really, and they're competing with dudes. And, of course, a male is on a bench press is going to be stronger, but they're really, power to weight ratio, they're moving weight. You see them even like on a hip thrust. I've seen chicks doing like 250 kilos in a hip thrust. I couldn't even lift that off the floor with a hip thrust.
I don't even do, like when I'm doing hip thrusts, so I've got 60 on there on the Smith, and I'm like at full extension. I'm like, oh my God. Like,
they've got like, I think it's like 6 plates aside, on the, and it's incredible to see.
Talk about conditioning, eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I think it's great too. I think it's really showcasing achievement and it's healthy goals to pursue as well. And it, as a couple too, like you say, if they're in there with your boyfriend or whatever, it's great because they're both bouncing off each other. They're able to. Yeah. it's healthy. It's not competition. So I wouldn't say it's healthy competition, but it's healthy cooperation.
Absolutely.
They're both inspiring each other and looking to drive more. So I think that's a positive aspect of the culture and what social media has done for it. It has definitely changed a lot. When I first started training, it was more of a like people who went to the gym and people who didn't. And there was no social media to showcase. Like, there was, but it was 100%. The older stuff. And there was no social media that really people were... There was no influencers or Instagram models or anything like that. So there was no way of it becoming as mainstream as it has become now. And I think, it's positive as long as it's holistic and that what you're doing isn't pushing your body to extremes. I think the culture is a positive thing. The fact that fitness has become more mainstream is a good thing, I think. But it has created a degree of vanity in society, which... any expectations that you need to be fit, which is a bit of a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it definitely. I'd say that you touched on that quickly with that double-edged sword. It's also not necessary to be this jacked, and that's what I've really over the last kind of several years I've kind of allowed myself to learn more about as well. It's not about just being that kind of huge jacked, pumped up. I've got PTs that I work with. That do, these full marathons, that do even triathlons, do Ironmans. And that's incredible. I really look up to that. And I think I would like to say kind of, I was a little bit ignorant to that back when I was, because I was bigger than them, I was stronger than them. And, but it's just a different fitness. Yeah.
Cool. What do you think makes a good PT?
A PT that's accountable to their clients.
Right.
And a PT that also puts the client in the place when they need to be.
Right. It's a good balance.
Yeah, definitely. And just not necessarily kind of put them in the place, like telling them off, but be able to pull them out on things that they're being lazy.
And I guess communicate that in a good way.
Yeah,
in a way that's going to be understood and not taken. They're not going to take offence to it.
Absolutely.
I mean, really, they're signing a contract to be held accountable.
100%. Yeah, exactly.
That's your job to hold them accountable.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you've got to, as long as you can communicate that well. Because some PTs are just either they're not dedicated enough to their clients to hold them accountable, or when they do, they say it in the wrong way. They say things the wrong way.
Bang on what you said. Yeah. They say it the wrong way, or they're just like, well, this person doesn't actually emotionally mean anything to me. They're just a figure. They're just a number. So they're just like, oh, well, whatever. If they don't do it, they don't do it. Whatever. But I take it super personal. Like, if a client's not doing what they're meant to be doing.
What do you mean you haven't achieved any results this week?
like. Oh, when's the last time we trained? Last time with you. What the fuck?
Are you fucking kidding me?
Like, what? Like, how are you meant to get where you meant? You're going to. I've got a couple of clients. One that was going back to India,
right?
And they're meant to be kind of really sticking to nutrition plan and everything. And they were going out with mates and going to the piss, and and then they hadn't trained for like a week, which is
balance
fine.
It out.
Exactly. Yeah. But then also, I said, look, you need to make a sacrifice. You're going to go back home. You're going to have fun. You're going to go out on the piss with mates and do the same thing.
Yeah, right, that's right.
Sacrifice a little bit to gain.
It's going to be much harder to be disciplined with your training when you're over there than it is here. Just make the most of the time you have here beforehand.
Absolutely.
Yep. That's a bit, and that's the thing. You can only do so much for them, as a coach, which must be frustrating because you're like, I want the best for you, but really I've got to leave you to do this in your own time. That balance must be tough. And I think it must be a slim percentage of PTs that have that mindset, that really do dedicate themselves to their clients on that level.
Yeah, emotionally giving yourself to that client and just being like, you want them to succeed more than they wanted to succeed. Which sometimes can be infuriating, but sometimes can be the most beautiful thing. Like I had a client, Jade, she lost 46 kilos.
Jesus,
and that was just consistency and just, I know this sounds really mean, but I drilled her into this box of, this is going to be your lifestyle for the near future.
Yeah, good.
And you're not going to get out this box until you hit where you need to hit. She needed that. She didn't need a flexible lifestyle. She needed serious, this is you for the next 6 months.
And I guess you can identify the people that respond well to the flexible lifestyle versus the box.
Absolutely. Too. And even I got her into that position of being in that box, but then once we hit the target, she eased off. She went out with mates, she went drinking, saw photos of her. And guess what?
Yeah.
Instead of covering herself in makeup and wearing all these nice fancy clothes to try hide her insecurities, she would look insane. She would look beautiful in a dress, wear hardly no makeup. And that to me this is what people need to really realize is stop spending money on makeup and clothes and all these things and get the foundations looking good. Yeah,
that's right. How addictive that must be for her too, to see those results, to be able to feel free as herself with minimal mask, if you put it, you know, and be like, oh my god, this is what I've wanted, and you had to put her in the box to get
to get there.
Yeah, that's good, and I think that is definitely what makes a good PT. Cool. So this one's just for you, Tom. What is your specialty as a PT? What do you do best?
When someone's struggling like mentally, whether it's out of a relationship or whether it's just a weight loss thing, a confidence thing, or a PT that's a client that's new to training, is like them being like a little chick and like fledging them into like a bird that you can just let go and like they can just fly out the window. That for me that's like I don't know what you'd even kind of title that as. It's
personal development, I guess, on quite an extreme level.
Yeah, bringing someone into my world and then sending them out.
Yeah, you're right.
That for me, that's like a huge, you know, I love prepping people for competitions and bodybuilding, but really letting someone absorb my knowledge and being able to send them off with the knowledge is tenfold the best. Yeah, like almost absorbing your mindset too, your way of thinking about training, your way of applying yourself to the task that you need to apply yourself at to achieve the goal. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, bang on.
Yeah, that's quite a. I think that's how I guess every PT ideally should be, but they're not. You know, like they should have the mentality themselves to push themselves to that point.
Absolutely.
How often should I rest, and how often should I train?
All relation to volume on what you're training and what you're doing. You know, whether you're an athlete or just a gym goer, but I'd say for kind of listeners, the average gym goer who, you know, is not really doing it for a sport, they're just doing it for aesthetics. One day 100%, and
just training.
One day resting. Making sure 100% you've got one day of just complete rest. And then
so no walks, nothing like that, or
no, I would just have like a full kind of just. It's more for your central nervous system. To really let your body just like close down for a bit. Read a book. You know, just do something that can kind of that's not gym. You know, we're advocating gym, but do something that's not gym. Do something, you know, that's. Go do some weeding in the garden.
Is it 1 day a week, do you mean?
Yes. Yeah. 1 day a week. And for someone who's a little bit on a advanced level training, 2 days. And I'd probably situate that second day more in the middle of your split. You know, whatever your split is, push, pull, bro split. You know, if you're doing, you know, if you're an athlete who is doing kind of CrossFit or, you know, whatever exercise you're doing, I'd say middle. And it just gives that body time, so you're going to perform better. And people have this really big misconception: if I rest, you know, I'm going to lose my gains, I'm going to do this. But when you're resting, you're growing.
That's right.
Which
Absolutely. I feel like for me, I really notice when my nervous system is fatigued. The split that I do with my training partner at the moment, we do 4 days on. It's basically a 4-day split, and we just repeat after the end of that 4 days. We take rests generally when one of us is feeling fatigued. And I'll know when I'm fatigued because I'm not really getting a pump. I'm normally quite tired in the morning when I wake up. I remember reading about a test that you could do. It was a grip test where you grip something and raise your hand above your head, and it's a way of telling whether your central nervous system is fatigued.
Interesting.
I've never done it, but I remember reading about it, and they take a measurement. And it can obviously be quite a fine line that displays whether your nervous system is fatigued or not. But I know when my nervous system is fatigued now, I can actually feel that as a feeling.
And as someone like yourself has been training for that long, and myself, you can start to read your body.
Absolutely.
And you start to know, you know, when, and it's no shame in, you know, for example, I've been absolutely smashing, because I've done bro split. That's all I've done my whole life. I've tried the others. I just really enjoy doing that.
So what's a bro split?
So bro split would be you basically train each individual muscle group each day.
Yeah.
So every day you're training a different muscle group, and then you can go for like a repeat.
So we're talking like a chest day, back day.
Yes, correct.
Shoulder day, arm day, leg
shoulder day, arm day, leg day.
Yep.
And for example, if your legs are kind of lacking a little bit, which for a lot of males, most men that is the case.
Yeah.
I just chuck in, so I do a second leg day, and it's become, because my legs are well developed, but it's become more of like, I like leg day now because it pushes me out of my comfort zone, and just it breaks me down. So then I just release so many endorphins. It's like addictive, really.
Makes everything else seem a lot easier.
Exactly,
too.
yeah.
And I guess too, like I used to split leg day into 2 days where I'd have a hamstring focused day and a quad focused day, and calves would get worked on both days. But like being able to break it up like that. I mean, legs are probably one of the most taxing to your central nervous system.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, like
biggest muscle group, and the ones that are going to burn the most calories. You're going to release the natural growth hormone from doing them.
Yep.
They're just an all-round absolute winner.
Yep. Yeah. And the compound movements associated with training legs are also very good for your core strength as well, and back.
Yeah.
If you're doing heavy squats, your ab development's gonna come up.
You're like your posterior chain. It's gonna, when you're doing all your squats and when you're doing, a lot of like your single leg things, it's really gonna develop the whole foundation top to bottom.
Yep.
And people have this misconception: if I'm just doing legs, or if I'm just doing squats, it's only going to be working your legs, but squats are a full body exercise.
Everything, Yeah, and they're good. That kind of stuff is good for things like posture and things as well.
Definitely, for sure.
Do I need to stick to a plan and track my progress, or do I need to stick to a plan or track my progress?
Yes, I would definitely say being on a plan is beneficial. It allows you to progress. It allows you to see progression.
Yeah,
and when you see that, you're going to get a lot more motivated to train and keep pushing forward. I think it's a very interesting one, because I've been very split about this kind of in the last several years. Personally, I don't have a plan that I go in and that I do the exact same thing.
No, that's almost counterproductive, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because what happens is you end up, all your motor skills, everything just becomes almost like it's the equivalent of, just like a groove in a piece of wood, rubbing back and forwards, and you just get this groove that you get really good at doing a bicep curl, for example.
Yep.
But when you go try to do a chin up, you're going to suck at it.
Yeah, that's right.
You're using your biceps, but it's the same time. It's like I'd say for 99% of people, a program is a must.
Yep.
And whether that's a program that you review before you go in, and you go in and you train it, and you can add on your phone, you progress as you go, adding all your weights. But the thing is that also can be super counterproductive. If you see people all the time, on the phone, typing in the weights that they've just done, they do one set and they pick up the phone, you've got no intensity.
No, and the phone can be a distraction too. You might end up looking at it for 3 minutes because you got notifications.
Exactly, yeah. You get a notification, you click on that 100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my opinion on that is that a plan is reasonably essential, because you do need to know what you're doing each time you go in there. And I just mean generally know what you're doing. By the end of each week, say you break your training into sections, you say, okay, by the end of the week, you want to have trained everything evenly, based on whatever your goal is.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for, say, just overall physique development, you want to look better, you want to feel better, you want to be stronger, really you need to train everything. And if you go in there without a plan, you could do chest 3 times in a week. And that's obviously not what you want to be doing.
Exactly. And that's, for a plan, I think, for the average person, I think that's, yeah.
And I think too that if you do have a plan, you can change it up every 6 weeks. And if you was someone that didn't want to stick to plans, for example, you could still do, say, your bro split, your chest, back, shoulders days. Yeah. You could go in there and say, at least go in there and I'm training back today.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a whole different set of exercises to what I did last time, but I'm going to leave here with my back fatigued.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I think that's at a minimum what you should be doing.
Yeah.
How long should each session be?
Again, depending on what you're training for.
And the level of experience you have. And
For sure. I think I would like to see you, I say to my clients, I'd like to see you in here for at least 45 minutes if your rest periods are reasonably short. And again, that also depends. If they're doing a strength program, we're doing 5x5 and they're doing 3 exercises of 5x5, that's you're already up to 45 minutes. And they've got no cardio and they've got no core in and they've got no stretching in.
So 5x5 being 5 sets of 5. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, five sets.
Five exercises of 5 sets.
No, five sets of 5 reps.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Is that strength training?
Yeah, so that's strength training. So that's going to be, if you want to increase, your bench press and you want to increase. Right. And that's where you have that progressive overload.
Yeah.
So each week you'd add on, it could be 1.25 or 2.5 kilos. And you just slowly, small increments coming up. So that's
fine tuning it.
For that sort of session, I would say up to an hour and 10, an hour and 15.
Yeah.
But I've had this conversation recently with not a client of mine, but a client's friend who comes in. And he comes in with my client when I'm not training my client. And I see them there for sometimes up to 2.5 hours.
Right, yeah.
And I go up to them and it's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And they're like, we did shoulders and we're just finishing off a bit of back and we did a bit of bicep. And that is overtraining.
Yeah,
when you overtrain, you go catabolic. You're risking injury. Your joints are getting basically nailed, unnecessarily. So,
and your nervous system's taking one hell of a hit.
Exactly. And it's taking one of the hell of a hit. And then you see them there the next morning and then they're training for another. And it's just, your body is not going to grow like that.
I mean, 2.5 hours is the distance that should be between meals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And you're in the gym for that whole period.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. There was guys when I was in prison. There was dudes that were training for. That was the standard for the ones that do train in there. It was 2 hours, and I remember just being like, by the end of it, like, fuck, you guys are conditioned for this volume, they were because they'd been doing it for years.
100%.
And I was like, I can't keep up with.
What was the kit like when you were training inside?
It depends on the unit you're in. So if you're in a high or like a medium security unit, it's broomsticks and water bottles.
Okay, right. So you almost need to do that level of volume to replicate what we would have from a nice, smooth, shoulder press machine. They have to do, 150 reps with water bottles and broomsticks.
That was it. You've got a pull-up bar. So like guys would be able to just bust out 50 pull-ups, wide grip. And you're just like, what? And this is a dude that doesn't look like he can do that. And you're like, you're so conditioned for this. This is crazy.
And that's back in that kind of that grain, that wood of just, you're rubbing it back and forwards and you're building that, like, you've just got this, you're so good at that certain thing, if you put them under, some weights, and this is what also a big misconception is, people think, I can just do a home workout and not go train today. And, yes, you could do something like core, but when it comes to weights, you need that resistance. You have to have that resistance to be able to, for example, like when lockdown happened and a lot of clients, I had to make up these programs for clients, and it's very interesting you say about water bottles because I'd literally go get them to get the 5-litre ones, and they were making homemade like squat racks and making all these homemade exercises. Oh,
that's right. During COVID, there was like you had to improvise. You had to, exactly. Weights on Trade Me just sold out.
And then for a squat rack, it was like $2,000. But normally you see on Facebook Marketplace for $150.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That was terrible. I know. Yeah. It's my opinion on training, session length would be really depends on what you're doing when you're there. If you're warming up and you wanted to factor in, say, 10 minutes on the treadmill either end, I wouldn't be there for more than an hour 20, hour 15.
I like that.
My window for training would be anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour 15.
Yeah, I like that.
I think is roughly what I would do. And for a lot of people, they go in there, it's jaw day anyway. So they just want to talk to people. And 100%. It's like, fuck, if you're in there talking to people, cool. Your workout might get pushed out to an hour and a half or hour 45. But you shouldn't be doing that. Your rest time should not be more than a minute, really.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's a healthy, holistic way to train. Okay, it doesn't matter what kind of gym you train at, and they've given the examples of F45, City Fitness, CrossFit, etc.
No, it doesn't, but there's always this big kind of, I guess, meme going round and this big joke of, CrossFit, kind of, and people give it a lot of grief. Now, this is my take on it. CrossFit is okay if you know what you're doing already, you know the basic fundamentals, you know how to engage and how to use your body. I look at CrossFit as more an advanced thing versus a less advanced thing. So being able to actually engage the muscles you need to engage when you're doing a movement
in the right order.
Exactly, in the right order, and not just hustling through the weight, or just, you see these kipping pull-ups, and you see a lot of cross
swinging.
Yes, you see a lot of people kind of hurting themselves because they're not doing things correctly, because they're going into a group environment. You haven't really got that one-to-one. There's a coach walking around usually, but so CrossFit for more advanced, I think there's nothing wrong with it. I have no qualms with it. F45 on the other hand, I'm not a fan of.
No,
I'm really not a fan of. I think it's very culty, and not culty in a good way. It's very wishy-washy. People go in and you're throwing weights around, and then you're leaving, and because you're hot and sweaty and bothered, you feel like you've had a good session. And I can say this on first hand that I've actually done an F45. I've done multiple F45s. I was just like, look, I'm going to try this out. And I looked around when it was happening, and there was people lifting things they should not have been lifting.
They're not getting the input that they should have. And they're not getting the input
they're getting. Exactly. And they're just moving weight for the sake of moving weight.
Prone to injury, I guess.
Exactly. And it's people, newbies, that are getting put on free weights when, as any coach would agree with me on this, when a newbie comes and starts, you want to start them on an exercise that is, that you've got control. That's a one-plane movement. Your synergists, which are your second mover muscles. You're not kind of overwhelming anything, and everything's just very straightforward, nice and simple, and just getting the feeling. But then something like F45, they're doing like a barbell row. When they don't even know how to do a crunch. So it's
the posture won't be right.
Exactly. But gyms-wise environment, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what you're trying to achieve. I mean, to me, F45, not that I've done any F45 sessions, is just glorified circuit training.
Yes.
That's effectively what it is.
Absolutely.
And circuit training, we did a lot of that in the army, and I think it's one of those things that needs quite serious supervision.
It does, yes.
Especially like you say, with new people when they're coming in. If their form's wrong, they can injure themselves. They could be, it's the same as like body pump at Les Mills. You could go in there and you could be like, oh, we're going to do this with weights. Sweet, I'm going to get a 20 kilo barbell, and you're like, and then you're like, fuck, I regret this. It should have been a 5. But some people push themselves through that, and then they get injuries and things. And sure, F45, if you want to pay $60 a week for circuit training every morning and get part of that cult, or like you say, not that I won't say cult. But if you want to be part of if you want to be part of that group and you love that kind of atmosphere, sure. But it's circuit training.
Yes.
You're going to get circuit training results. General fitness is really what that's going to provide you. As long as your form's good, you're not going to injure yourself, and you've got good. The person running it knows what they're doing roughly. I mean,
exactly.
F45 is going to be something that is going to be. It's a franchise. There's going to be rules and standards and things that they try to uphold, but it really comes down to the owner and the staff there as to whether they
for sure
do.
And the little problem touch on that is, quite a few, this is kind of to be a bit harsh now, quite a few F45 trainers are what we call cereal box PTs. They've gone in and they haven't got, by cereal box, I mean, they haven't really got that nutrition. And by nutrition, I mean, they haven't got the time and the knowledge of training and the fundamentals, of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years of actual training to then deliver that and to help a client that is doing, an overhead dumbbell press and hyperextending their back at the same time, and straining their neck. Because the weight's still moving, and Sarah looks great when she's pushing it. But also when Sarah gets home or when she gets to the office, she's like, oh, I've got a really sore neck.
She needs to go see a chiropractor.
Exactly.
I think those PTs going into that place, it does seem like it's kind of low volume, well, not low volume training, but you would think circuit training was reasonably simple training. But they are movements that require quite serious.
It's very complex. Absolutely.
It's not like you're on a flat bench and you just need to monitor that one plane of movement. Like you said, it's actually multiple things going on. And there is normally two trainers monitoring a group of 10 plus. Usually. So they're not going to see everything that's going on. It's
exactly. There's been great ones, and I've seen great ones. I know a guy he's opened his own studio up, and he's doing really well with that. But it definitely needs better. It needs to be kind of monitored better.
As far as the other gyms go, City Fitness, if you want Tom as a PT, but no, if you want City Fitness, obviously you're going to get bigger crowds. You're going to maybe have longer wait times for equipment, but you are going to have a good range of equipment and generally quite cheap rates as well. So CrossFit is probably, in my opinion, it's CrossFit is like generally quite extreme training for everyday life. That's the way I put it. It's like all the movements that you do are big compound movements, and a lot of them, and you're generally encouraged to push yourself very hard. It's got quite a serious cardio element to it. Absolutely. I haven't done it, but it is something that, from what I've seen, if you do it right and you make sure that you warm up and do all those other things, your joints are going to survive. Absolutely. But it is going to be one of those things that you'll probably feel fantastic after a good CrossFit session, and you will, for everyday life and things, it's great. Probably going to have very good back mobility and strength and things. You won't just be focused on one plane of movement. You'll be able to move really well.
It's way more functional. And it's also, it definitely, like, if you can get it right and do it right, I think it definitely transfers over to more realistic life than going to go sit in the gym. So they've all got their pros and cons.
That's right. I mean, you could do like, say, train everything at the gym in the right way, but then you might just do one task where suddenly you have to help your mate unload a trailer full of bark or gravel, and you're like, fuck, I'm sore after this, because you're not used to doing functional movements. And that's where I think CrossFit it'd be unlikely you'd get sore doing anything if you were really proficient at CrossFit.
Definitely.
Can I train at home and still get good results? You kind of touched on this before.
Yeah, touched on that. I would say yes, you can. I think it's not fair to say you can't. I think there is ways to do it, but also touching back on kind of that style that you had when you were inside, your volume is going to have to increase a lot. If you don't actually have kit, you're going to have to increase a lot. Your technique is going to have to be slowed right down and really, really strict.
You're not going to have the same range of equipment and things to use, so you're going to be quite limited in what you can do at home. But it's definitely possible, just with something as simple as some bands, like a kettlebell, maybe like a couple of dumbbells, if you can kind of scrape that up. I think it's a great way. A lot of people I know who have started like that, who a confidence thing is something that they really struggle with in the gym, and they're too, if it's male or female, just too nervous to go into the gym. So I think that's a great way. And, even I know people that have lost 5-10 kilos just by, just pumping away in the lounge. But it comes a point where then you have to say the next steps, the same as, being in kind of high school, if you want to be that doctor, you need to go to uni. You need to, that's right.
You need to upgrade, and going to the gym is that upgrade.
I think it's very possible. There's people who have achieved amazing things just in their garage, and it's possible, but at the same time, you are very limited. You're not necessarily going to have the group input of other people around to correct you if they think your form's not good, or something like that. You're not going to have the same range of machines. I think it is a really good thing, like you say, for confidence. If someone's starting on their fitness journey, it might be the place that they lose their first 10 kilos, for example, and start to feel like, okay, this is for me. If they already have the equipment, then great. If not, you could always go down the route of just continuing to increase the amount of equipment you have and buying more and more stuff, and eventually you've got a full setup at home that you don't need to go anywhere else. It isn't the most efficient way to do things. Like a gym membership is going to be the best, I think, value for money in terms of getting access to equipment, but also getting immersed in the culture. Personally, I hated training at home during COVID. I found it very hard to get motivated.
It's very isolating.
I've when I've had to, I've done it and I've enjoyed it, but I love the gym atmosphere, and that's not like I'm there to talk to people, because I'm not. And people probably think I'm rude because I go in there and I just have my headphones on and I don't necessarily look approachable. But when people do approach me or I talk to them, they realise quite quickly. I see the look on their face. They're like, oh, he's actually a really nice guy. But I like that. I like going to the gym. I like being around people who are training. And and I like the range of equipment. And the fact that I have this psychological association with hard work in this building too means when I get in there, I know what I'm doing. Subconsciously, I'm in the place where I do the work.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like, I remember when I was studying psychology, they said that your bedroom should be reserved for sleep and sex.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That you shouldn't have a TV and things in there, because when you go in there, if you go in there and you watch TV all the time, you're not going to be able to switch off at night and things like that.
100%.
And I think that the gym's the same, is that, you might get the same feeling if you go out to your garage and your weights are there, but going into a place where it's humming, everyone's training, there's music on, and you do that daily, that can't be understated for motivation, as long as you're confident doing that. Yeah. I've heard there are specific body types when it comes to training. What are they, and how do I know which one I am?
So there's different ways. It's quite interesting. There's quite a few studies have been done. So you've got kind of mesomorph, ectomorph. You've got these different ones, but it's interesting because quite a lot of that, as study-wise, is being undone.
Is it?
Yeah. A lot.
Because that's been in place for a long time.
That's old school stuff.
It was the standard.
Yeah, it was the standard, and a lot.
I still talk about it.
Yeah, and a lot of that's been undone. Now, by undone, it's not that it just doesn't work anymore, but there's better methods.
It's not that simple.
It really isn't that simple. You're going to get someone who's got taller, longer limbs. So that the way that they move,
their levers and things are longer and everything.
Exactly, the way that they go. For example, like on a deadlift, how they're set up.
Yeah.
How you're setting yourself up, how you getting that scapular retraction, how you're bringing everything back.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Is going to be a lot harder than someone who's shorter, to do an exercise.
Oh yeah, I remember the owner of my gym, we trained together back in 2006, and he's shorter than me. He's got kind of short levers.
Yeah.
He'd just be smashing out reps of weight that I'd be like, I can't even consider doing that.
Yeah.
But then when you looked at our reach for bench press, the difference in distance,
how much further you're going.
He was just doing these little 40 centimeter pumps, and I'm like, fucking, it's almost a meter off my chest. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah.
So there's definitely body types. There's definitely different body types. When there's kind of even come to like females, you've got a lot of females that are usually genetically quite strong in the legs. That's just kind of usually where they hold the muscle, where they hold, and I think that's probably down to, I guess, like ancestors, down to,
it will be,
having, carrying that baby, you've got all around the hips.
They're normally strong, wider through the hips.
Very strong through the glutes. And then guys usually a little bit more top heavy.
Yep.
So body types wise, there's not really a rule of thumb, but for training you just have to either trial and error to see what works for you. Some exercises work really well and some don't. I've trained with people that are almost same physique, same kind of setup, same height, same everything, and there's certain exercises that they or I just really bad at.
Yep.
That's just
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to your posture as well. Sometimes if you might need to correct your posture before you get into things like squats, otherwise you're going to injure yourself.
Definitely.
Or at least strengthen deep stabilizer muscles that are. Oh yeah, I guess that comes under posture stuff as well.
Yeah.
What we were talking about earlier in terms of body types is the kind of the outdated method of establishing what you are was ectomorph, mesomorph, and endomorph. And in order, they were basically if you were naturally skinny, naturally reasonably athletic, and naturally quite big.
Yeah.
Most people were a combination of two.
You cross over between. You're normally a mixture of.
I'm kind of ecto-meso with the lower percentage being the meso.
Yeah. Because meso is more blocky, shorter, kind of thicker muscle bellies usually.
Yeah, someone who's naturally athletic, someone who can put muscle on easily and also put fat on easily, but lose it quickly if they need to or want to.
100%.
Whereas an endomorph will, and again, this is an older method of doing it, but an endomorph is someone who was naturally bigger, hard to lose weight, very easy to gain it, generally easy to put muscle on, but also will put fat on very easily as well.
And that can be, you could be, for example, being in New Zealand as we are, it could be, it could be kind of a lot of like the island guys,
it will
Samoan,
be heavily
Fijian,
genetically
they've just got that big, thick set. And they just they touch a weight and they just blow up.
And fantastic at rugby and league.
Exactly. But at the same time, really struggle with weight loss. and just really struggle with the kind of also a lot of kind of things like cholesterol.
Yeah, have to be quite careful of what they eat and how much they eat.
Because their bodies are just a lot more sensitive to that.
And you find it also varies between sexes as well. You know, a lot of women will be more in the endo side of things. They're generally more prone to putting weight on and storing fat, whereas men are generally more lean. Their metabolism's higher, they sleep hotter, and all those kind of things. In terms of working out what you are, there'd be a lot of online resources for doing that kind of stuff to make some educated guesses. But realistically, if you went and got a body scan done,
it's a great way to do it.
It's one way of kind of confirming with someone who is reasonably knowledgeable on that kind of stuff. I don't necessarily place a lot of trust in those body scan machines. I think that taking caliper measurements and all that kind of stuff is the best way to do it.
That's what I do with my clients, just calipers.
Yeah. Sure. But if you go to one of those body scan people, at the very minimum, they're going to be able to tell you roughly what you are. And then if you were to take that to a knowledgeable PT, or at least go to a knowledgeable PT, that PT is going to be able to identify that. Realistically, I think choosing a PT such as yourself, who's able to identify what someone is and then what's going to work best for them, and then 100%. Testing those theories is going to be the best way to identify what you are.
I think that's definitely something when a client comes to me is you basically do something called a movement assessment, which is my version of, getting the title of what you are, whereas, mesomorph, ectomorph is I do a movement assessment with them. I see how they squat, I see how their levers work, I see how everything works, and then we create the program from that. So that's my variant of doing it. Yeah,
cool. I think that's a much more effective way than just putting you in that box and saying, okay, cool, you're going to eat like this and you're going to train like this.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Okay, so next question. What is the best time of day to go to the gym?
I personally like the morning. And I've recently been doing lots of fasted workouts. So what a fasted workout is basically is you haven't got as much food on board. Yes, you're going to have food in your body if you eat from the night before. Your insulin, everything like that, and your glycogen levels, everything's going to be a little bit lower, which means when you're burning calories, when you're burning fat, you're going to be actually burning that versus burning the food that you've just eaten. So you'll be a little bit weaker usually when you train those times.
You kind of don't have as much in the tank, eh?
Exactly. But at the same time I've found recently, because at the moment I'm actually doing a cut before I head off to Europe, and I found that's been working really well. Because I feel like when I get to that point, I can't be complacent. I need to dig deeper than ever. Because you haven't got that fuel to kind of...
you can't afford to rest as long and things, because if you get to that 45 minute, that hour mark, your body's like, hang on a minute, I got nothing here.
Exactly.
I know in the mornings, if I say if I'm training at 9 or something like that in a weekend, I won't have breakfast before I train, because for me that's counterproductive. I really can't eat 2 hours before I train. I need an empty-ish stomach. I notice the blood flow to my muscles isn't the same. I notice I get indigestion and things when I'm training if I have food in there. So, but like you said, I do notice that I get to that 45-minute mark and I start to feel really just almost low blood sugar. And I'm like, right, this is when I need to
everything starts to drop. But then, for example, in like an off season or when I'm really focused on strength, it's interesting you say about the eating. I can literally finish a meal at home and drive to the gym and train.
Right. Oh, can you?
Yeah. So I
don't know how you do that.
I could have like salmon and rice. And I'll have the most insane session. I think my body processes food very fast.
Right. Yeah.
So that literally is just used as like nitrous. I get in the gym and I'm just like...
Do you drink a lot of water?
Probably not as much as I should.
So I was wondering whether drinking water might influence that, because I don't drink much water. I feel like that's why food might just sit in my stomach.
How many litres would you have a day normally, say?
Of actual water? None. No, I do. I often drink like electrolyte water, stuff at the gym. So I'll mix that replace powder in with water. But generally, I would say my total water consumption over the day might be 2.5 litres. Not enough. Generally just over half of what I should be having. And I do have the odd, I was against caffeine for a long time, but I am back on the coffee now. And I do have caffeine before the gym. I don't have like ridiculous pre-workouts or anything like that.
Caffeine is actually really good for you. If you're having certain amounts of it. If you're having black coffee, it's like, again, a huge misconception that people think the caffeine's so bad for you and this and the other. it's got a lot of, the coffee bean has got a lot of really good like antioxidants and things in it.
Yeah.
So all these pre-workouts and all these things that you get in the shops, that are, riddled with DMHA in it, which has got, beta alanine, and it's got all these things that just send you into this this cartwheel of just you're almost out of touch with your body. Is also not great. And you see in a lot of young people, they're kind of pumping pre-workouts, and 100%, I've done pre-workouts a lot, and there's nothing wrong with them, but a shot of black coffee is going to give you a cleaner energy and a better performing energy than the stuff that comes in those containers.
I also don't think you should get into the mindset of relying on a pre-workout either.
Exactly.
I know the safe limits for caffeine are 80 milligrams per 10 kilos of body weight. So something like, and 80 milligrams would be your average instant coffee, I think, somewhere around there. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's roughly 1 cup of coffee per day, 1 cup of average coffee per day per 10 kilos of body weight. So that's like 9 cups for me. And I wouldn't get close to that.
And what happens when you're saying about that, you get the rely on it, you get something called adrenal fatigue.
Yep.
So you're going to, which you're well aware of, you're going to be really relying on that pre-workout, and then you're going to have to take from half a scoop to 1 to 1.5. And then you start chasing, the next. And the problem is because you're training every day on most days, you're not going to have the days off. And without the days off, you're not going to have the days off the pre-workout. So you're not going to allow your body to reset. So I can go weeks without a coffee, but then when I need it, I'll have one. And, for example, this morning I trained, no caffeine, no stimulants, no food, no nothing. Had a great session. But then there's other times, like if I'm doing like a big leg day like this Wednesday with a mate, I'll probably have like a shot of black coffee before I go in. And that's just to it just brings everything up, blood vessels, just gets everything a bit heightened, and you just have a bit more fire.
Adrenal fatigue's a real thing too, and it's not just caused by caffeine. You can get it through, if you've got a really stressful event happening in your life and you're on edge all the time, that's contributing to your adrenaline levels. And there's all sorts of other things you can be doing too. If you're doing gear on the weekends or anything like that, you could find that you fatigue very quickly from using caffeine too often. And most people use caffeine as a bit of a survival strategy in the morning too.
Sure. And back to that gear point is people think, well, I won't drink because if I do gear, it's healthier. Which just makes me laugh. I'm just like, they're both poisons. You can pick which one you want to do, but don't try pretend like one's better. No,
well, you might avoid the hangover, but the following 3 weeks, your brain chemistry is so hammered.
Absolutely, especially when people are doing, like ketamine and MDMA and just things that are like really full on your body. I think hallucinogenics are probably in a slightly different category, which I think you might have touched on in the past.
I'm all for that. I think, but anything that's like an amphetamine related type thing is going to be quite seriously fatiguing on your adrenaline system as well. To go back to that question, the best time of the day to go to the gym for me, I prefer mid-afternoon, and that comes down to that meal timing that we're talking about. I like to have at least 2 or 3 meals in me, and then a 2-hour break from the last meal from when I train. And then I feel like I've actually got enough in the tank to go that whole hour, and I find I get a pretty good pump. So normally for me, I'd train mid-afternoon, at the latest around 5 o'clock. I think I try and avoid peak times, but I anything after 5 o'clock, I'm in wind down mode for the evening. I don't think it'd be a good idea to train too close to bedtime either.
A lot of people, probably the main thing why I mentioned for clients to train in the morning is most people finish work at 5. You get out of the car park, you drive to the gym, you get slap bang at peak times, you try to get on the kit, you lose the motivation, you can't get on it, you get frustrated, you're waiting around, you lose that buzz, you end up being there for way too long, being there for 2 hours, and it's just almost like a catapult effect. But definitely there is a valid point what you're saying about the food. Having food on board in your system, you're going to perform better.
I think it's good to mix it up too. You don't necessarily have to train every day at the same time. I think mixing it up is another way to shock your body. In a way to condition yourself for life, rather than conditioning yourself for training at 4 p.m. every day, it's quite good to wake up in the morning and be like, oh my God, I don't feel like going to the gym at all, and go and do it. And then you feel fantastic. And
it sets you up for the day.
Sets you up for the day, yeah. Especially if it's not something your body's used to doing. It's like, whoa, hang on, that was a shock. Okay, maybe I've got to be ready for that in the future. That could be a growth strategy,
Yeah.
Next question. Is there any difference between using machines, cables, or free weights?
Absolutely. Massive. It's, for a newbie, it's stages. You should approach it like different stages. So starting off with something very simple, like using more machine-based, it builds your planes of movements up. It allows, back to that synergist, it allows these second movers, these little muscles, to just develop slowly. It gives you tendons time to grow, which is a big thing, and it will grow and adjust to the load and your joints. And it's a safer way of starting out. And then you moving on to that free weights where everything's a little bit more stable. The first time you come off, for example, like a machine press to like a dumbbell press, that's when you feel, like you mentioned before, when you start the stability factor, and that's where all these little muscles are having to recruit. It can be your rear delts that aren't really firing enough, and a client needs to hit more rear delts. And then the last one was
machines, cables, and free weights.
So cables kind of sit almost in the middle of machine and free weights. They have a purpose, but a lot of the time there's a very big difference between an actual strength movement and a stretch movement. So you've got like a stretch movement, which is like a fly, which is and it will grow your chest, or it will grow what you're training for. But a lot of the time, a stretch movement versus an actual compound, so something like a skull crusher with a barbell or a close grip bench press is going to grow your triceps, or a dips is going to grow your triceps more than a tricep extension on a cable. And that's the big difference, is it's more of a compound style movement. You
normally want to factor them all in somehow.
Exactly.
Generally, once you're at that point.
And once you're at that stage, for sure.
You say, when I first started training, I was just told by people, use free weights for the stability aspect.
Interesting,
But no one said to me, you're more likely to injure yourself doing that.
And that's the thing, you were lucky, but then I've seen people who have come up with a pair of dumbbells and then come right over, hyperextended right back, and literally just blown the shoulder out. A chick who happened in the gym, actually, Holly, and I literally had to, because the ambulance was going to take about 40-50 minutes to get there, to drive her to Christchurch Hospital between my clients. And it was not my client, let me just stress that. But that was because it was something that was a more of a complex exercise, and something that was a lot more susceptible.
She's committed, injury. Man, holding it all the way.
Exactly.
Like,
and it just it was a mess.
Oh, I bet. We've had to drive students that have injured themselves to hospital too. That's not fun. I think your cables and your machines, if you're more advanced at training, they should all be incorporated. Generally, you would prioritize your free weights for that stability aspect. For sure. If you're really looking to push your strength up, machines are great too. And cables are good for a lot of isolation stuff, finishing, a lot of stability stuff as well. Cables are going to provide also a degree of resistance that you might not get from dumbbells. So, for example, if you're going to do a fly, we'll use a fly for an example. If you're going to do dumbbell flies, you're really only working for the first third to half of the movement.
Agreed,
If you're talking about a dumbbell fly, if you can picture you lying on your back and your arms are spread completely wide, and you're bringing those dumbbells up to your, right in front of you with your arms extended, that first half of the movement, you're fighting gravity. The second or last third of the movement, you're really only moving those dumbbells parallel, to the ground. And so they're kind of closing up, but you're not really getting the same tension on the muscles. The muscles are not loaded through that last third of the movement. Whereas if you're on a machine, those muscles are loaded all the way through. You don't necessarily have the stability element of it, so you aren't like controlling those dumbbells in space, but you are getting resistance all the way through. And that whether or not that does, people talk about building your inner chest or upper chest by doing the close part of the movement, the closed part of the movement, whether that's true or not. I mean, a lot of people have different aspects.
Very, very mythy. You pec minor, pec major. And there's a lot of, I call them Instagram exercises.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
A
certain part of the rep range.
Yeah. Or, there's kind of, I think touching that quickly, there's a new fad of a kneeling single arm pull down.
Oh yeah,
which there's been a lot of people like the old school bodybuilders talking about it and almost just kind of like laughing it off. Why would you pick, like I said, less superior exercise? Yeah. But it looks really good. Yeah, right. And you get a little bit of a burn
versus a T-bar row, which looks quite not masculine, but like it's a heavy movement.
Definitely.
And it's one that people generally, unless you're training hard, you're pushing yourself quite hard, it's one you'd stay away from because you have to engage your core. You've got your knees are bent. You're breathing. You've got to control your breathing.
All through your diaphragm, the pressing of the pad is a big thing. That really kind of almost like wins you.
I love a T-bar row. Personally, there's nothing like it for actual overall back development.
I literally did them this morning. I was doing T-bar rows. I was doing standing, and they're great. They're really great.
Standing T-bar rows are a staple, and I think, what are we? Getting back to what we were saying.
We lost track.
It's too easy to go off on a tangent. They've all got their place. Your machines, cables, free weights. To start with, it's obviously more about just safety, and then progressing into it. You should be incorporating all of those into your workouts.
Yeah, as long as you're at that stage. Agreed. I think it's as long as you're at that stage where you can do it. Yeah.
I want to get bigger. Should I be doing cardio?
Yes, because it'll increase your appetite. Increased appetite, more calories in, you process your food better, and you will grow.
I didn't think about that. Because I used to do weighted hill walks a lot. I haven't been doing them as much, but I remember my appetite was so much more when I was doing that.
Yeah, and you gets the food processing through your body, instead of just sat on the couch.
You sleep better.
You sleep better.
Cardio, everything's...
Yeah. And it's also a great way to actively rest the muscles that you're trying to grow, and then you're going to build more muscle because you're actively you're keeping them moving. So there's loads of different ways to hit it from.
The other thing that I noticed too, with these weighted hill walks, for example, there was a huge cardio element to that for me, but it was more a kind of endurance training. I would put endurance training and cardio into almost the same category, because generally if you're training for endurance, your heart rate's elevated into a cardio range. It's not the same category.
My way of putting it is you've got you obviously got your, like you said, that endurance kind of phase. So where you're working on getting your fitness up and working being kind of healthier, fitter, whether you're running, and then, for example, something like when you're doing more like a fat loss state. So the idea is a fat loss state is staying in that 125 to 135, beats per minute heart rate, and that's where you're going to have the optimum kind of zone.
Cardio range, isn't it?
And that's that steady state cardio, which I give to myself and to all of my clients, and it just works. It's just You
find too, muscle volume is made up of a few different things, and if you're doing cardio, those muscles will take on more glycogen, from what I understand anyway, or not take on more glycogen, but there's different types of conditioning for your muscles.
Definitely.
When I found I was doing a lot of hill walking, my legs were bigger or more toned and bigger. Yeah. And then when I came to do squats, I felt, and squats and leg press and everything, I actually felt like I had more endurance. Through that. And I don't know whether that's because they were. It could have been a conditioning thing.
Your lactic acid, you can hold it off for longer.
Things like that.
Your recovery, so like your ATP, so like recovery that you're going to have between sets are going to be better because you've got a weighted vest on, you're walking up the Port Hills, you are just constantly plodding. And what's the weight? What sort of weight were you using?
I worked it up to 30.
Wow,
so it was a
lot of weight.
It was a 5K round trip, half up, half down. And I started on lockdown, and it started with 10 kilos, and I'd put 2 kilos in a week.
That's awesome. And there's progressive overload right there.
It was really, really good. When I got to 20 kilos, it was quite an achievement for me. And then when I got to 25, I was like, fuck, I just need to get it up to the 20. I got to the point where I was putting in 1 kilo at a time. Yeah. And then I was like, actually, I'm just going to I got to like 26, and I was like, I'm just going to push this to 30 and make it happen. Yeah. And I was stopping way more often.
Yeah.
But then I got to the point where I was stopping less.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't stopping at all.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh my God, I'm actually conditioned for 30 now. And then I was at the point where I was doing the pipeline with it. And I'm insane. Like, and I was like, I was having to stop on the pipeline. But, the conditioning that gave me, because if I run, when I was in the army, we ran a lot on the road in boots.
Yeah.
And I would end up with shin splints quite bad. So I can't run. I can run, but I hate it because I always end up getting them. Yeah. So for me, it was a really low impact way to condition myself for something that I think is actually quite relevant. If I was somewhere with Flynn, for example, my son, he weighs about 35 kilos. Yeah. If I had to carry him out of somewhere,
absolutely,
I know that I'm conditioned to carry him uphill for 2.5 Ks if I have to.
Absolutely.
So that for me was real life conditioning, and it was actually something that was... when I mixed that with weight training, I actually felt like the endurance aspect it gave me. And I say this because, it was a cardio thing for me. I was doing it for the cardio element, but the full body conditioning it gave me was so good. Absolutely. Like at night and everything, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd be sore everywhere. Like my hips, my core muscles around my back, everything, like parts of my legs that were never sore from anything else. And when I was conditioned for that and I wasn't getting as sore, I felt overall throughout the day felt fantastic. My posture was better, everything.
And for anyone who doesn't know the pipeline, it's an almost kind of vertical walk with almost like small staggered steps.
Yep.
And then you've got a pipe running alongside, which I think the rule is you're not allowed to touch them.
Really? Is that the rule? I've broken that. It's probably, what is it? Probably a 400 metre elevation.
Yeah.
Maybe just under. It's in Heathcote Valley in Christchurch. It's next to the gondola. And it's, I would say it's pretty consistently steep. Hey?
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. I think my best time body weight up there was maybe like 9 minutes.
Jesus,
I'm pretty sure I've got it written down somewhere. I used to set my clients up to do it. And I think they got pretty close to me.
That would be an average speed of somewhere around a jog.
It was step. It was like pushing it.
Yeah.
And it was like near the end when you get to the end, it flattens off at the top.
Yeah.
It'd be into a run.
It would be. Yeah.
Like just to get it done, and you get to the end and you're just like.
Yeah, I'd always do that too even with the weight vest on. Is I'd just get to that last little bit and I'd be like, I'm sprinting this and then I'm going to collapse at the end. No, it's great. God, 9 minutes getting up there is fantastic.
That was when I was lighter and actually did more endurance stuff.
My son's mother, she would do the bridle pass twice in 45 minutes.
That's incredible.
And just that, she got quite really toned.
Twice as in bottom to top.
Down again, bottom to top.
Wow. That's impressive.
Do you listen to music when you train? Is it a good idea?
Yes, I do. It's a great idea. It blocks out any distracting background noise.
Yep.
It brings you into this mindset zone, and also depending the music, it can bring out memories of something good or bad that has happened. Yep. And that's where you can really just switch and just dig into this, dig those heels in, whether it's a breakup or whether it's, a family member has passed and, you might have heard that song, and it really brings something out of you, I feel.
Yep. Absolutely. Music is it can hook into so many emotions.
Definitely. And
at a time where you need to physically exert yourself or really push yourself, being able to hook into certain emotions is very productive.
Yeah.
I would listen to music when I'd go for my walks. I always listen to music in the gym if I'm on my own. I think if you've got a training partner, you shouldn't have headphones on. I think that's rude.
I agree with that, definitely.
You need to obviously communicate with your training partner. But I think in general, gyms have music on, just like malls have music on. They want to keep you entertained, your mind entertained while you're doing what you're doing. For some people, it's a bit of a monotonous task. They don't want to be in the gym. So the music can actually make it a lot more fun for them. Yeah. But it can also be distracting. If it depends on what phase of your gym journey you're in. If you have just started and you're referring back to your program often, and you are checking your form and things like that, I think maybe music isn't a good idea, as long as you have the motivation. So that you're not distracted, that you can interpret what you're doing properly. You can receive feedback from people around you if you think things aren't going well. But generally, I think it's important for motivation anyway. It's something I always do.
Yeah, no, music's it's a great way, especially things like when you're doing cardio.
Yeah,
you just kind of something to just take your mind off it.
It's a way of switching off a bit. Do I need a spotter or a training partner?
It's an interesting one with the training partner. I'll touch the spotter first. So with a spotter, I think if you're doing lifts, for example, like your like a barbell squat and exercises that just require a little bit more, you're taking a little bit more of a risk, I would say yes. And it doesn't have to be that permanent spotter / your own training partner. It can be another member in the gym who you look like you can trust.
As long as you trust them.
I always just go for the biggest guy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He's been asked before.
Always go for the biggest guy. Yeah. And if there's not a biggest guy, you're the second biggest guy. I don't know. You just
don't go and pick a 45 kilo girl to spot you on a fucking heavy squat or something like that. Like
you need something that's like something or someone that has got you. And then a training partner. I personally, I'm not a fan. I feel like the way that I train. I know this is going to sound. This is again where I get this. I guess you could say. Might get this arrogant kind of title. I feel like the way that I train, people aren't training in that same kind of category / level that are around me.
Yep.
And
you would need a training partner if you had one that is on your level 100% to make it efficient.
Yeah. Otherwise you're just carrying someone.
Yep. Or they're carrying you.
Yeah. And exactly. And I can be, if I have a training partner, I can be a bit rude in the sense of I'm here to train.
Yeah.
If you want to get a coffee, let's go after.
Yeah, you're right. You just haven't had the right training partner yet.
I think that's it. I definitely think that's it. And then also the lastly is I'm with clients every minute of the day.
Yep.
I love it to bits, but it's my me time.
Fair enough.
It's my me time.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
The gym environment for you as a PT must be dominated by social interaction.
Yeah.
And for you, when you actually want to put your head down, that's your time to switch off from social interaction.
Yeah. I say hi to so many people and it's just when I can just put my music in.
Yeah.
And
don't talk to me.
I can just, like for example, this morning it was hood up, walked past a couple of trainers in the other gym that I train out of, and it was just like a head nod.
Yeah.
Didn't even come in. Couldn't even bother to just go and speak to them.
Yeah.
And then when I left, I taking my headphones out, one of them was walking out, I was like, oh, how you doing?
Time to talk.
So it's a time and a place.
Yeah.
But I think if you're like two younger people, male or female partners, I think training partners are great because you're both in that stage of learning, of getting better, of being able to help each other.
Yep.
And you shouldn't be training with someone who isn't pushing you and actually, if you're not needing a spot, I feel like, and you've been training for a long time with that person, I don't think you should be training with that person.
No.
Yeah. If they're not going to actually be pushing you physically, so I've in the past I've seen, and I've approached other people, their training partners just stood there, just like hands by the waist, just like watching them bench and then nearly failing, then grabbing it.
Yeah, that's
and you're
right.
Like, you're a training partner.
Yeah, you're supposed to be motivating that person.
Get in there, get the fucking weight up.
Yeah, come on, let's go, hurry up. Yeah, I know. I agree completely. I think first thing, if you're going to train with someone, they need to be on your level, or if they're willing to take you under their wing on a higher level. You don't want to be carrying someone.
Definitely.
If it does get you into the gym, if it's someone to hold you accountable, hey bro, are we going tonight?
Definitely.
Yes, we fucking are.
And then if they don't show up, you still fucking go.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the biggest thing.
You're also there to hold them accountable in that situation. You're signing a contract just like if you were in a relationship with someone. You're both showing up for each other.
100%.
But the most important thing with a training partner is that A, they're motivating you, and B, they are on your level.
Yeah.
I have a training partner. I train with him every day except for the days that we don't line up. So if he's got something else on, I'll train on my own. I actually look forward to those days sometimes because I get to put music on.
Yeah.
I'm not, most times that I train, I'm training with him, so I don't have music on, and we'll chat throughout the workout, but because we've both been training so long, he's been training more than 20 years.
Yes.
I've been training for 16 years, I think. And because we both have the same mindset, he'll start talking about something, he'll say it, I'll go to reply, and sometimes he's like, come on. Like, and I'm like, fuck, you just spoke to me, man. Like, you just said something. I was just replying. Just wait. Okay, but yeah, I'm like, okay, yep, sweet, right back into it. Yeah. And he holds me accountable in that way. But I always used to say, having a training partner for me, I got 30% more out of the workout when I was younger. Anyway, when I was in my late 20s and things, I got 30% more out of the workout because I was suddenly, I'd been going to the gym for a long time. I was going 5-6 days a week, every week since I was 18, and for me it was like, this is just what I do every day. It became, like you say, that piece of wood with the groove. It was that was my gym day, every day doing it. Suddenly I had someone else there. He was like, fuck off, you had 3 more reps in you. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yes, I did have 3 more reps. Oh, he's like, you need to be going up in weight. Oh, okay, I'll grab the 28 next time.
That's what a training partner should be like.
Yeah, and I think unless they're doing that for you, don't do it. You just don't need it. Yeah. If you're super disciplined on your own, sweet, just do that.
And it can bring your intensity down a lot in the session if you don't need them. Yep. You can just end up, like you said, you end up carrying them, and the workout turns back to what we were mentioning before. It turns from a 45-minute intense in out, to a 2.5 hour.
Yeah. So. It also, if you've picked a training partner who's more intense than you might hate the gym.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you might go there and this guy's just, honestly, from the moment you get in there, you're getting thrashed.
Yeah.
And I know, for example, when I went to prison and we're doing these 2-hour sessions with guys who are conditioned for that and doing it, I was thinking, oh my God, what have I signed up for here? I don't want to be, I don't need to be conditioned for 2-hour training sessions. And then I'm like, how do I get out of this? I can't. I've signed the contract. These boys are like, come on, we're training. And I'm like, fuck.
And if you say no,
they're like, what are you? You're not one of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was too much, and I started to resent training because I was like, I don't want to do that again. I don't want to do fucking 10 sets of hamstring curls with this guy's pulling my heels back. I was like, this is a drain. But yeah, it's really got to match up, and you've got to have really good communication with that person too, so they know where you're at and what you need for that experience to be positive and for you to get enough out of it. It's a delicate balance. It's a really delicate balance having a training partner. You'll know if it's working for you or not, basically. You should be seeing results. It should be enjoyable. End of story. What supplements would you recommend? I mean, that's a pretty general
Very general, question. But I would, straight off the bat, creatine.
Creatine
is literally, the research has gone into it. I'd say it's probably the number one supplement above protein. I put a bit above protein powder.
The thing is, you won't generally get the increased creatine levels from food consumption, whereas you can have enough protein from food.
Bang on. Yeah, absolutely. You get creatine in red meat, and there's certain foods that have it, but to the dosage that you need, you should really be taking it. And it's not going to give you hair loss. You're not going to, it's not, people kind of, it's interesting, you get teenagers taking it and then the parents are like, oh my God, he's taking steroids, and it's like,
oh yeah. What's that jar you've got in the pantry?
Exactly, and it's just like, it's got a big picture of like Ronnie Coleman on it, and then they kind of put that in, you shouldn't look like that.
Is that legal? Yeah. Is it so? Why do people take creatine? Just so they know.
So creatine, you'd load on it. Usually, it's for normally 3 to 4 weeks. You do higher dosage depending on body weight. Usually, it's the very best way to do it without me kind of giving you a dosage. Just literally on the back what it says. And then add 5 grams when you do your loading phase. So loading phase just really inputs that into your body and gets things going. And creatine will put a lot of water into the muscle. It will help with recovery, and it will also help massively with your strength.
Its function is assisting with that whole Krebs cycle, isn't it? The ATP synthesis stuff. And ATP, I remember them talking about it as like a currency within your muscle. It's effectively what's responsible for the muscle contracting when it contracts, which is a balance of ions and things like that. So like calcium and whatever else. But it helps that whole process of contraction within your muscle, and it does increase water retention. So what scares a lot of people off with creatine is that they could blow up a little bit. It's never as noticeable as you think it's going to be. And for women who are like, I don't want to blow up, the benefits that you'll see from it and how much better you'll feel when you're training are actually far outweigh that blowing up.
And especially females taking it, because most of the time females usually who I've kind of come in contact with don't like red meat, don't like a big steak with blood, don't like this sort of food. And because they're not getting the creatine the other way, it's a really good way for them to supplement it.
Yeah. Because that's its main source, apart from as a supplemented powder, is from red meat, isn't it?
Yeah, from red meat, and you get it, I think, there's a couple of other meats that have it. I think you can get small amounts from like pork.
Right.
But red meat is like the main source where you get it from. But you'd have to eat, $100 of steak every week for a $40 thing of creatine. So.
And it's best absorbed with carbohydrates too, I think. So like
carries it.
Yeah, we used to put like a decent scoop, or a couple of scoops of creatine in with like half a packet of Raro into a litre bottle.
Yeah.
And we'd just sip on that throughout the morning.
Yeah.
In our loading phase anyway.
Yeah.
And that simple carbohydrates with it at a diluted dose, so not and this is for people that aren't concerned about their sugar intake. But yeah, we would do that, and that was a really good way to get it into the muscles and things. And just creatine monohydrate. You don't need anything crazy. You don't need these salts and these kind of things.
Yeah.
There are ones that are easier dissolved and ones that are more acidic and things like that. But I think plain creatine monohydrate is the cheapest.
Powder form, by far the best. A lot better than pills. And
way more efficient and value for money.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'd probably go second time with kind of the third would be glutamine and whey protein. Whey protein is more because if you want to keep your food bill down, one scoop is going to have 30 odd grams of protein, versus if you have 2 shakes like that a day, it could cut your food bill down by $60-$70 a week. If you're having two of those every day.
Yeah, and if you just you can chuck other good stuff in there like natural yogurt, bananas, that kind of stuff, and it becomes a meal, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So glutamine is the most abundant amino acid found in the body, I think, or in muscle tissue at least, and it's the one that isn't included in branched chain amino acids or BCAAs.
Yeah, so your BCAAs, you don't get that with them. And interesting about BCAAs, some people really give them a lot of stick and kind of say, it's just the expensive water you're drinking. But if you're at that level of, it's almost like the polish on the car.
Yeah.
If you take them and everything else is perfect, they're great.
Yeah, there's no point in taking them and not eating well.
Exactly. If you have 2 shakes a day and you have one meal and drink a big thing of BCAAs, you may as well just use the money from the BCAAs and buy more chicken.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Supplements are on top of everything else, and in order, really. If you should be going to the gym and training hard. As long as you're doing that, you'll notice your appetite will increase, and if you sort your nutrition out, that's your basic foundation right there.
Yeah.
You're not going to get very good gains at all if you're not eating well, even if you are going to the gym. And then when you introduce supplements, realistically, if your food's on point, you don't need protein powder at that point, but creatine would be the first supplement to introduce. Then you can start supplementing your protein intake with a whey concentrate or isolate, or a blend, depending on what you want to do. And then you would start throwing things like BCAAs, glutamine, that kind of stuff in there.
Yeah.
As far as pre-workouts go, I don't take them, and I wouldn't recommend people do. I don't think you should rely on that. If you want a poor man's pre-workout, you can have a black coffee and an aspirin. Yeah. That's what I used to do.
Yeah.
And the aspirin thins your blood. It helps with blood flow, and your the black coffee gives you a wee hit of caffeine.
And if you want the beta-alanine for, where you get that kind of that tingles, and you want that pump factor, half a teaspoon of pink Himalayan sea salt.
Really?
With a big glass of water.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
will give you the most insane pump you ever got. And big misconception, salt is not bad for you at all.
No.
If you have the right iodized stuff, it's terrible, but if you have pink sea salt, you'll know when your body's had enough. But there's nothing wrong with salt.
Generally, if you're having a lot of salt and you're getting cramps and things, that's when it's time to back off. But if you're not getting cramps and things, I think your levels of
and if you're
salt
getting cramps, bumping magnesium up, and then you'll be sweet.
Yeah, I think as far as supplements go, those are kind of the basics for it. And then also, it depends on what your goals are. If you just want to be healthy and holistic, just start having multivitamins and things like that too. I mean, generally, I don't know what the research is on multivitamins, whether they are necessary or not, but I think it can't hurt to have one a day.
Fish oil, omegas are a huge thing. I do quite a lot of fishing, so I eat a lot of fish usually. But definitely having fish oil is a really good one for kind of for your joints and everything.
Next question. I've heard about gym etiquette. What are some examples of good gym etiquette?
Gym etiquette would have to be come to the gym clean. That's probably one of the biggest ones. Come to the gym, you know, if you're working on a construction site and you're dusty and you're smelly, jump in the gym showers even before you train. So yeah, being clean, being respectful, you know, not hogging equipment too long. And then the biggest one, kind of, this is back to a negative of social media. We've run through, like, the positive would have to be being on their phone, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat. And yeah, I've got kind of a bit of a no BS policy. Like, if I see someone on the machine, I'll approach them. How many sets have you got? And if I say I've got 2 or 3, I'll literally be like, I'll come back in 5 minutes. I want to say that to them. And if they're still on their phone, I'll be like, look, we need to jump in. Like, which someone else needs to use this kit. I'm real, like, I can be a bit of an ass, because at the end of the day, the gym's there for people to train and people to get in shape. If people are texting, just go sit on the mats, text, and then do your set, you know.
It's a time thing, isn't it? Like, what they do with that time is fine. It's up to them. They can...
Absolutely.
They could do star jumps.
100%.
They could fall asleep, as long as it's only for a minute. Or they could text their mates. But the problem is, when you get on your phone, suddenly time just flies and you don't realise that you've been sitting there for 4 minutes.
Really does.
While you're scrolling Instagram. I mean, I'm guilty of doing that, definitely. I'll reply to friends and things between sets, but I'm hyper aware of how much time I'm spending doing that. And there will be times where I breach it, and I hope someone comes up to me in the gym and says, bro, you've been on that piece of equipment for like 4 minutes now, or you know, you've been on there for 15 minutes, and that sometimes it will be the case. But I agree. I think it's a really serious component of gym etiquette. For me, it's about personal space. You know, some people who aren't haven't been to the gym much, they might be coming through and, like, you know, just like setting up right next to you, like too close to you. They might, it's, for me, personal space is a big thing. Being aware of other people, being conscious of other people, returning your weights, those kind of things are really important, especially if you're on the leg press. You're not going to leave it loaded up with 15 plates aside. And
then little Sarah comes along and tries to jump on, and you know, it spends 10 minutes unloading it, and then they're like, oh, I hate going to the gym, and then they'll build that kind of negative annotation to it.
There's ways to deal with it too. Like, you know, if you are having to unload, say you see someone who's on the gym and on the leg press, and they've got, say, 10 plates aside on. You're about to use a leg press, you know, you're going to start with 5. You go up there and say, just leave 5 on, it's fine, or I'll give you a hand to unload it. That kind of stuff is really important.
I like that,
or if someone is unloading the leg press and you're loading another machine, you might as well say to them, do you want to just chuck them on here? People are like, oh, you're sweet. And often you can make your workout and their workout more efficient by doing those kind of things. And it's just about looking for those kind of things and identifying them. It's quite important. What are some examples or stories of bad gym etiquette? So you had one before that was that, you know, people who potentially certain diets, cultures and things have a certain smell. I guess being aware of that and addressing it is quite important. And that comes down to either, it's hard to, how do you approach those situations? Like, how do you talk to someone about how they smell, especially if you believe it's a cultural thing?
Often I found the way of being as a coach, being a trainer in a gym, would be to approach, for example, like management, or approach like the reception manager, and be like, look, this person's over there. Can you just have a real light chat with them?
It needs to come from gym staff.
And often that's been received really well. You know, they've been like, and then like they come to the office, chuck on a wee bit of spray, boom, problem solved. And then oftentimes that's not an issue next time. It's like I said, because it's a cultural thing, they don't even realise it half the time.
No, and you don't want to make them, you don't want to give them a sensitivity to it, or like a phobia of coming to the gym, or make them too self-conscious around it either. Another bad gym etiquette would be,
I'd say, feeling like you're pressuring someone. So it almost
it's like almost for a machine type
thing. So it's almost semi contradicts what I was saying before, but there's a time limit of, you know, when. So, you know, if you have just, for example, jumped on like the leg press, and you know you're going to be, you know, up to however many 12, 13 plates, all the way back down, big drop sets, you might be doing with the partner, you're going to be at least 10, 15 on there.
Yeah.
So if someone asks you, how many sets you got? And then you go, it's probably going to be more time.
Yeah.
So I often say to them, look, I'm going to be at least 15 minutes on this. And if they just sit there and wait for you.
Yeah, that's rude.
It's rude. Like for someone like you and I, we're just like, oh, whatever. But for someone who's super nervous, what they do, which I've seen a lot, is you get someone who's maybe a lot more confident in the gym will do that.
Yeah.
And then that person will rush through the sets and then we'll just jump off. And I just feel like going up and being like, were you actually done there? Or were you just getting off because they got you off?
Yeah.
And I have in the past, I've just like, I've said to the other person, I was like, there's another one over there. You can just go use that one. Like they're, if they're using it, and then they've gone over and used that, just to, especially like a newbie, they're super nervous. Like you get like a high school, small high school girl who's doing, looking at the little photos and the machines, I'm not too sure what it does, and they're doing like a chest machine and really like kind of struggling. And some big dude comes up and like, how many sets you got? And she's like,
half the time they're like, oh, you can have it. It's okay. I can do something else.
Exactly. And then you're just that's an etiquette that people who are confident in the gym and been in the gym for a while need to be patient.
Yes.
With people who are new.
Yeah.
But I think also there's a borderline of where it's like, if someone's wasting your time on the phone, then that's different.
It's tough, because when you're new at the gym, you don't know what to look for to spot all those things. And someone who has been there a lot longer, it's almost kind of like they have an advantage when it comes to that kind of stuff. If they're a dickhead, if they're a dickhead and they see the girl using the machine they want, they could go up with it with a bit of subtle pressure and know that girl's going to fold and leave.
Exactly.
And that's rude as fuck.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
if you're that guy, get fucked.
Yeah, 100%.
Get out of the gym.
Yeah,
like
100%.
You're a loser.
Yeah.
I think like if I was to go up and say I need to do pull-ups, and it's in the double cable machine, and someone's in there using the two cables.
Yes.
And I go up to there and I'm like, hey bro, how many more sets have you got? And he's like, I've just got 2 more. And then I can see him starting to rush. Yeah. I would say to him, it's fine, man, honestly, I'll just go between your sets, or don't worry, no, it's all good. Don't feel like you have to rush. You can identify when you're the more experienced one in that situation. You can identify when they're nervous. And I think putting someone at ease in a gym environment, there's a lot to be said for that. If it's bad, you're right. It's very bad form to put urgency on someone else to get off equipment.
Yeah.
Very realistically, you should be planning your workouts well enough that you can substitute things anyway.
Definitely. Yeah.
If someone's on the leg press, like you're on the leg press, say, and I come over and I'm like, how much longer you got? You're like, fuck, I've just got on here, man. I'm going to be 15 minutes.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, okay, what can I do for 15 minutes? Yeah. Well, I'll just mix this session up. Yeah. I'll do some like quad isolation stuff, pre-exhaust.
Yeah.
And I'll come back to that.
Even something as simple as you could be like, oh, can I jump in with you?
Yeah, or can I, at the very least, can I grab it after you?
Yeah.
So then if someone else comes over in that 15-minute period and you're like, fuck, I'm going to lose this.
Yeah.
You say to them, sorry, mate, he's got it after me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, shit, I should have got in there and actually let him know. And I guess in those moments too, that's a good way to build rapport with people in the gym, meet people that you could, like you say, potentially work in with.
For sure.
If you look at someone and they're loading a leg press up with the amount of plates you would use, and you're like, what are you doing on there? And they're like, oh, I'm going to do pyramid sets or whatever. You're like, maybe I should give that a go.
Definitely. Yeah. Another way to try it. Another way to be pushed.
Yeah, that's right. Cool. Why do people joke about curling in the squat rack?
Because it's probably one of the simpler exercises that's taken up like a whole piece of equipment that could have been used for a better purpose.
So it's linking to that bad etiquette thing, eh? It's basically it's an inconsiderate use of equipment.
100%. Yeah. And it's something that really, even if you're curling, 20 plate aside with a 60, like 60 kilos with a 20 bar, if you're curling that much, you should be able to pick it off the floor.
Yeah, that's right.
You shouldn't need to use the rack.
Yeah, you're not racking a weight to get it at curling height.
That's
sure.
That's a big one.
Yeah, it's basically a misuse of equipment. There's other bars and things out there you should be able to use. Most gyms, if they have enough equipment, will have flat bars that you can use and load up to curl with. The squat rack isn't designed for curling. That's what it comes down to, and it needs to be used for people in squats. There's often only 2 squat racks in a place anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah. When should you make the decision to get a PT?
There's 2 points to that. So first point would be if you are completely new to the gym and you want to receive the best results possible, that's a really great way to start. And then the other side of that is if you're really hitting those plateaus and you really want to take it to the next level, that's also a great time. But anything in between that, if you're a bit stuck, you need a bit of motivation, you're struggling with, a certain exercise, you've got a bit of an injury that just won't go away, you've just, every time you press, you've got a niggly shoulder, and you YouTube how to fix it, and you can't fix it, and that's a great time. So honestly, getting a personal trainer or getting a coach is any time really. It
comes down to whether you need guidance or motivation.
Yes,
those are the two things, and I think, and that can happen at any stage of your fitness journey. Most people, unless you're one of those people who wants to go out and get the facts themselves, you can get a lot of information online, but apart from that, you should probably get a PT when you first start training. Just get some input.
Yeah. And a lot of the information online can be very inaccurate as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, at least if you know someone's done a qualification in it, they're going to give you some verified scientific fact, on how to train. Plus, also hopefully some industry experience, depending on how experienced they are.
Yeah.
What do you think of getting a workout or nutrition plan online?
So getting a plan online is definitely a cheaper option for a lot of people. If they are maybe a bit more remote, out of town, live with their parents, or they don't have a car, so they don't have that kind of access to come into the gym for training.
Yeah.
Online's great, but you just have to really make sure that, the coach that you're getting online has been proven and has got good references that you can maybe have a little message to and chat and be like, what's this coach actually like?
Yep.
How does he treat you? What's he like when he's super busy? Is he still attentive?
Yeah, right.
Is he still going to, is he going to listen to your goals even though, he's like a bodybuilding coach, but you want to, get really strong on bench or something, it has to suit and fit in with your goals. So getting a coach online, I think is a good way, but you just have to make sure it's the right one. And there's definitely lots of those cereal box qualifications going around.
Or nil qualifications. Just a nice Instagram and, a chick is toned, got a nice bum, and she says she's online coaching. Yeah, that's right. There's plenty of people out there who have great genetics, respond really well to training, have a reasonably disciplined diet, look fantastic, and are the first to give you advice on what's going to work for you.
Yes.
And often I think a lot of those people get a reputation. People are like, oh, this person, look at them. Oh my God, look at them.
Yeah.
That's what you want to look like. And it's like, actually, this person has no idea what's going to work for you.
Yeah.
And I guess the more people that follow them, if you find someone online who's an online coach, PT, they've got 1 million followers or 500,000 followers, you can almost guarantee that those plans, some of those plans might not even be seeing them.
Yeah.
But, there's plenty of people that outsource that kind of stuff, and their clients, they'll send their client details get automatically sent to some person in India who writes all their plans for them.
Absolutely.
And that person's just profiting, clipping the ticket all the way through. So I guess if you get a PT and you do get stuff online, you want to make sure you do build a personal relationship with that person.
For sure.
You should either be able to contact them directly, like make a phone call or a Zoom chat. You would hope that, but at minimum, you would get some kind of discovery call at the start where you would discuss your goals.
You would get one-to-one in some form, whether that's even the PT's like, look, I know you can't come in and see me. I will come up to the other side of town. We'll meet. We'll have a coffee. We'll go over your goals. I can't come for a coffee. We'll do a Zoom chat. Just some sort, not just, okay, sweet. What's your age? What's your weight?
Height,
here's
weight,
a plan.
All that stuff.
And then that's just very cookie cutter.
You want to make sure that. Yeah, because often there might be PTs that have a great reputation for, say, achieving the goal that you want, and they're not New Zealand based.
Yes.
So, and you're like, okay, I want to talk to this person in Australia about, it could be anything, could be endocrine stuff to do with bodybuilding. You might want to jump on a steroid cycle, and this is the coach to talk to. Or, strength training, this person's supposed to be great for it. He's up north, I'm down south. That's fine, that's great. It's just when you get on the big popular trends of people and you jump on board with them and they've got these generic programs. That's when between training for strength and training for size.
So strength training is going to be your rep ranges. It's going to be your, I guess, style of exercises that you're going to be doing.
Yep.
So for example, if you're doing strength, you can be going, like I said before, kind of 5x5. You change your tempos as well.
Yep.
So, you're going to be doing a little bit more of like a pause rep. So you could do, for example, something a little bit more explosive out of the box. So it could be like a 3-second pause, a 1-second drive, and then a 1-second eccentric. And that way it's going to help build, if you're doing a competition where like powerlifting or something, it's going to help improve that. If you're training for size, which size equals hypertrophy, you are going to be aiming for kind of slightly higher volume, a bit more pyramid sets, a bit more drop sets. And the big misconception is, I'd like to put on lean muscle. I'll lift light weights fast.
That's a classic one.
And same with dieting. I'm dieting now. I'll just lift lighter and just lift more. It's the opposite. Your body responds the best to keeping the weight heavy.
Yep.
Good technique and the right rep range for what you're working towards.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of myths around this kind of stuff, but I think the hypertrophy range was around 8 to 12 generally.
Yes, yeah. You can push it to 15.
Yep.
It can go into that endurance phase, but depending what you're doing.
Yeah, the way I used to structure it is I would aim for anywhere between 8 to 12 reps. And then on my last set, I'd be quite happy to push it out to 15.
Yeah.
And it was just to get blood in there and really get that last endurance aspect.
Yeah. I even do things like with clients where we'll be doing 15 wide, 15 close, which is 30 reps technically. They aren't allowed to re-rack between those. So it's a leg press. So you're doing 15 wide, 15 and close. And they're holding, so 1 foot over, other foot over, straight into 15. Yep. So you work in your inner and outer kind of quad sweeps.
It's brutal.
It's brutal. We'll do 4 sets of that.
Yeah.
And then I'll reduce the weight by about 50%. And then they have to do 100 reps without basically re-racking the leg press at the end.
No wonder your clients can't walk.
Yeah. And the results that gives them is they end up with the best legs in the gym.
Yeah. And there's 4 days between leg workouts.
Yeah, exactly.
Recovery.
Yeah.
Oh, funny. Yeah, it's the other thing to note too is that often, for someone training for size, I think that incorporating strength phases in there periodically is quite important.
Definitely.
Just so that you're A, shocking your body again, but then B, you're pushing your weights up. Yeah. Because if you're sticking to that 8 to 12 rep range, you can plateau quite easily doing that.
Yeah.
And if you suddenly were to go, okay, I'm doing 5 sets at 8 to 12. Actually, I'm going to drop it down now to 6 sets of 6 to 8. 100%. And with the same weight, with a heavier weight, you're going to be failing on your 8th rep instead of your 12th rep.
Yep.
You're going to be doing more weight. You're going to be doing the same overall amount of reps or whatever, but your volume is higher.
Yeah.
And you've just increased that. You're able to increase your strength, and then when you come back to hypertrophy training, you may have jumped up a notch, and suddenly you can do higher reps with weight you wouldn't have been able to.
Exactly, and on that point, you've got this full loop of. If you get stronger, you can obviously lift more weight, and when you can lift more weight, you're obviously going to be able to put more muscle on because your weight's going to be higher when you do your hypertrophy.
Yep.
So it's really a full cycle of like you said, incorporating both. I'll do a lot of big heavy sets, work up to a top set. Almost could look like I'm doing powerlifting, but then it will drop right back down, and I'll do super high volume. Yep. So it's just changing it.
You come back to your hypertrophy stuff feeling quite refreshed or ready to do those higher reps again. Same goes. I think you may not, someone who's just focused on strength, you may not necessarily be incorporating any hypertrophy stuff in there. But if you needed to do a bit of a deload week or something like that, chucking the rep, right? And I might have used that deload term incorrectly, but chucking some higher rep stuff in there for a week might just give your body a bit of a reset and then come back to your strength stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the times I'll I'll know when like my CNS or central nervous system starts to kind of diminish a bit. So I'll just be like, right, the rest of the week, I'm going to drop my weight by like 60%.
Yep.
You know, so if I'm doing like squats or like I'm doing like bench, you know, I'll just stick to, you know, 80, 90, 100 kilos, and then I'll just go for reps and just burn myself out.
Yep.
You know, instead of trying to push in like heavier weights.
Yeah. Yeah. So there is quite distinct differences in it. And a PT will definitely be able to give you guidance on which one, or how to do each one. How do you get toned?
With a calorie deficit.
So we discussed this one earlier. So yeah, it's effectively just simple, isn't it? It's fat reduction while either maintaining or
it's calories
increasing muscle.
Calories in, calories out.
Yeah,
literally that simple. There's it gets very, very, very misconstrued, and you do this exercise for this, you know, it's going to burn fat off this part of your body. It just doesn't work like that. It works, you know, if you're eating more than you're burning, then you're going to get fat.
No amount of hip thrusts are going to give you toned glutes if your diet is not right.
Exactly.
It's just not going to happen. Yeah, no, absolutely. How do I know if I'm lifting heavy enough?
If you are lifting and you are aiming for 12 reps, for example, you're doing hypertrophy, and you are getting to maybe like 9, and it's just grinding and shaking, and you've second exercise in the gym and your second set in, you're lifting too heavy. You know, you're not being able to hit the goals and the numbers that you've programmed for yourself or had programmed by your PT.
Yeah. So
reduce the weight, tighten up your form, and also not getting the full range is a big one I see often. Yep. For example, the guy the other week, and I did mention and go over to him and have a chat with him, and he took it quite well, doing an incline dumbbell press, and he was doing, I think it was something like 38s or something. And he's a pretty small guy, you know, and when he lifted them up, I was like, oh shit, this is going to be pretty impressive.
He's got them there.
And he got them up, and there was not even quarter of a rep going on.
Right, yeah.
So you're risking, you know, it could be dislocation, it could be you could blow your tendons, you could tear your pec.
Yep.
You know, you can cause a serious injury.
Yep.
And also long-term things like, you know, like your golfer's elbow and tennis elbow.
Oh.
Which is...
Mate.
Horrible. You don't want to get that.
I had that for a long time, and it is horrific.
Yeah.
It's pulling and pressing movements aggravate it. Bench pressing, that was so bad. You can't get away from it, and you have to stop training. You literally have to stop training for weeks to get it right, and then ease back into it perfectly. Otherwise, you re-injure it, and you're back to square one.
Young people think they're invincible, and I did as well. And then you hit a certain point.
Yep.
Even if you're maintaining, you're stretching, you maintain everything. And you just have to train more sensibly. You can still lift heavy, but just train sensibly.
That was mid-20s for me too, when that happened for me. It's 25. I was 25, and my worst tennis elbow was then.
Yeah.
It can definitely sneak up on you. It's fucking horrible.
Yeah, 100%.
Next question. As a woman, I don't want to get too muscly. How do I avoid this?
If it was that easy, I would say to everyone, just don't get a PT. Don't train too much. You just blew up that big. If it was that easy.
If it's not that easy.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, if it doesn't happen like that.
You would have to be a genetic freak of a woman to look really muscular.
Or the first day you start with enhancing.
Yeah,
If you're worried that you were going to be like that, it just doesn't happen like that. And especially because females obviously have testosterone, but it's obviously a lot lower. So you are not going to pile on muscle like a teenage boy would. No. And even a teenage boy, it's going to take time, and they're going to be able to tell. So if you want a fit, healthy, sexy body that's going to be, you know, nice and toned, back to that word, lift weights, don't do cardio. Yeah. You know, yes, do cardio as in like, you know, a little bit of walking here and there. But when I say don't do cardio is, I mean, if I see a lot of females coming to the gym, maybe 10, 15 on some weights, and then the 45 minutes, an hour running on the treadmill. Yep. That is not going to give you a toned body.
No. Most of the quote unquote too muscly girls that women see are usually A, genetically blessed in that department, B, dieting, quite heavily dieting, dehydrating themselves.
Yeah.
Huge amount of cardio and really dedicated to doing it.
Definitely.
If you went into the gym and started the gym and did all of those things and did it right, yes, of course, you would look probably too muscly.
Yeah.
But odds are you're not going to do those
100%.
things.
Yeah.
Odds are you're not going to get a bodybuilding coach. Odds are you're not going to have diets so strict that you're monitoring every single calorie. Odds are you're not going to dehydrate yourself. Odds are you're not going to do 45 to 60 minutes of cardio a day on top of your workouts.
Exactly, yeah.
So like if you were doing all that stuff, yep, you'll probably end up looking a bit more muscly than you'd like to, but you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Just get in there, lift, like you say, lift weights, don't do cardio,
Yeah.
maintain a reasonably good diet.
Yeah. 100%.
You'll be sweet.
Yeah.
Cool. How do you keep your motivation and momentum going when you hit a plateau or hit setbacks?
You review how far you've come, and you review what were you doing up to that point, and you make changes. The worst thing with plateaus is if you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing through it, you're going to get disheartened or you're going to injure yourself. You know, you have a bit of a restructure, you have a bit of a deload, you look at your calories, are you getting enough calories in to supplement your training and to supplement that goal that you've set. Let's go off a little example. You want to increase your bench press. So, you know, you've been doing all this 5x5, you've been doing all these strength movements and all your accessories at the end of every session, you've been doing all these things and everything's going good, and then you suddenly hit a complete plateau, but then you realize, oh, my food's down probably 500-600 calories than what it should be. You know, and that's it can be a plateau. It doesn't have to just be weights. Plateau can be from food. And also sleep. Sleep is a huge one for males especially. By especially, I mean especially to raise the testosterone. Females having sleep is just as important, but to have the adequate sleep, you know, if your testosterone level's down, you could have a really bad day in the gym, your strength could be down. So I think with a plateau, you just review it, have a deload, increase maybe some fats if you need to, and sleep and rest.
So you really need to understand why the plateau has happened in the first place. So that's when it comes down to, like you're saying, review the previous 4 weeks and things, just look at what's happened, try and work out why, and maybe you're at the point where you've just tapped your nervous system out or something like that, and you need to just dial it back for a minute, review. That's often, I mean, a plateau is normally a good time to make a change.
Yeah, exactly.
It could just mean that you want to go into 6 weeks of more endurance type training, or even just introduce something like change the way you train. So like doing things like introducing a hold at the bottom, or slowing the eccentric part of the movement down, or working a bit more plyometric and exploding up. These kind of things can really change things up. You can also you completely rewrite your plan, your workout plan, or just introduce different exercises on the same days. So
if you're hitting a plateau and let's say you want to hit that bench press, you know, for example, great what you were saying, for someone who is hitting a plateau with just like in the gym, and then their strength and everything's the muscle, they're not really just staying the same, you know, they're not dropping weight, they're just looking the same. But you know, if you really want to hit that, it's all about how it's programmed, you know. So you change up slightly, you know, you add some different accessories in. You know, you would change up, you do that deload, pull it back, you'd have a different approach. You would move to maybe some like banded bench press, which also is a real good alternative. You would do some like wobble press, where you'd put basically 2 bands either side, and then you'd hang like kettlebells off the bar, and that's gonna work massively, like your synergists and your stabilizers. Because if you imagine when you're pressing, it's going to be like wobbling all the way up and all the way down. That's another great way.
They're going every direction.
Yeah, it goes every direction. So you feel like you just started the gym again.
Yeah, you would.
Which is,
I've never thought of that.
Wobble press is great. There's many options to keep pushing towards that goal of, you know, I want to be able to bench 140. You know, you don't need to give up on it. You just need to change the angle you attack it. Yeah,
there's different types of plateaus, isn't there? There's plateauing on a specific goal,
for sure,
or plateauing in general.
The gym.
Just in the gym. Yeah. How you tackle those situations is going to be quite different. What do you both think the most important body part to train on a male is? Well, so I guess what they're saying is, what's the most important body part on a male that can be trained? I mean, we all know what the most important body part is. But I mean, like, you know, like when I was younger, I would have said, we used to have this discussion quite often. I mean, it's like, what would you rather have? Would you rather have massive arms, massive chest, back?
I think the most powerful thing is if I look at someone who's lifting, is like the thickness from the side,
yes,
and like their back, traps, all kind of that areas is pretty spectacular. Like, I think people have big legs, you know, that obviously they've worked hard for it, or it could be very genetic.
Yeah, so normally is one of the two.
Yeah,
or both.
Or both. So you can see someone has huge legs, but then you look at the rest of the body and you're like, oh, actually, I think that's just all genetics right there. So I'd say back is something that, you know, you really, to build a really nice like V taper is pretty powerful. I'd say that's probably my favorite thing to see on someone.
Yep. When I was younger, in my teens, I would have said arms.
Yes.
I would have said, you know, looking good in a t-shirt when you're clubbing is the most important. And then now, you know, when I look at someone, I always look for a well-developed back, because I know that most people don't, you know, most people who go to the gym neglect their back.
Yeah.
You get t-shirt trainers who are training their chest and arms.
Yes.
And that's all they do.
Yes.
They want chest, arms and abs, because that's all they can see.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And that's all they think people care about. But then you look at them from the back and you can see their scapula and things like it's all really like pronounced, and you're like, oh mate, you need to really work on your back. But there's nothing like a strong back to show actual strength in someone.
It's very like that kind of, you know, that kind of Bane from Batman, that very powerful. It's very kind of, you know, you see, for example, someone like a stonemason or like a bricklayer, and you see, and they've just got this like these big, well set, kind of that thick. And same for females, like a woman with like a toned back. And like
she looks strong.
She looks strong, and it's that whole new era of that sexy versus skinny. Yeah,
sexy. Yeah, strength is sexy. Yeah. I think arms give the illusion of strength.
Yes.
Someone with big arms. When you're a kid at school, if your mate had big arms, he looks strong, but he probably isn't.
Yeah.
You know, if someone's got a big chest, they can press well. They can push. They can push things hard normally. If someone has a strong back, they can pull things hard. That's just the way it works. And if someone has strong legs, normally they're quite either athletic or are capable. I mean, all of it. It's a mix. You need everything. Personally, I'm the same as you. I'd rather have a strong back. I think it's the thing that shows strength. I actually love training back. It's my favorite day.
I'm exactly the same.
Pulling, there's nothing like pulling. Having a good bicep and back pump is
pull-ups.
Fantastic.
Pull-ups. They're
Yeah, for me, T-bar rows or close grip rows with the close grip cable pull down. Like I love finishing on a close grip cable pull down, or even just a medium grip cable pull down. It's really good. And then supersetting that with something like rope pull throughs.
No, I like this.
It's great. That's when I feel
old
alive.
School exercises.
That's right. Best. With T-bar rows and things like that. Yeah, it's great. Cool. Is it possible to look like a bodybuilder without taking steroids?
Absolutely. 100% you can. It's all just about that kind of X shape. So it's, focusing that you are hitting legs multiple times a week, then that's a very good place to start. And then also just, plenty of kind of like obviously focus on the back, shoulders, and that way you've really got that X shape, from kind of top to bottom. And also just if you stay slightly leaner, you're going to instantly look bigger. You're going to look bigger. You're going to be perceived as looking bigger. You're going to be closer to that, I guess you could say, unnatural look that bodybuilders have of the veins,
ultra athletic.
So no, absolutely you can.
It's going to take a lot more discipline. To look like that without the added enhancement of synthetic hormones, you're going to need to be extremely disciplined or genetically gifted.
Some people touch weights and they just
there's plenty
blow up like you would not. It's insane.
There's plenty of guys with African heritage and things where you would like they literally haven't touched a weight in their whole life, and you would look at them and go, he's on gear.
The bicep insertions. Incredible. And just
people like Arnold, back in the 70s or whatever, or 80s, he wouldn't have he probably didn't even need gear to look amazing, people would look at him and go, "That's steroids." And there's plenty of people out, Russian dudes and things like that are like that have guys that train in the gym even, and you're like, fuck, that is the look of someone on steroids, and they haven't ever touched them.
Yeah.
So it's definitely possible. Some people, it's going to be a lot of hard work. A lot of hard work. Every time I train, I end up sore. I can't walk properly or function well the next day. Is this normal? It's off-putting and makes me not want to go back.
Could be a sign of overtraining. And by overtraining, it could be you're spending too long there. Yeah. You're doing too much volume, and you are just doing everything all at once. Yeah. It's like, instead of having one piece of cake and kind of been sitting there and enjoying it, you're going back for the fourth piece just because it's there. Yep. Just because you're there in the gym doesn't mean you need to, I guess, abuse it. Yeah. It's like anything. If you overdo anything, you're either going to be sick or it's going to end bad. So I think my advice in that would be if you've got a proper structured program, you shouldn't really be sore for days and days and days. Otherwise, it could be looking at your sleep, your food, your recovery. Even if I absolutely crucify myself on legs, 2 days later, I'm pretty good. Yep. 2 days after. So day after, I'm a bit cooked, and then day after that, and so. But yeah, I'd say definitely as long as your nutrition, your sleep, and stretching, mobility, foam rolling, you're doing all of those things, you shouldn't really be sore for that long.
No, it's hard to say what is making this person sore, but I guess if it's joints and things, you're doing something wrong
for sure. Oh yeah, if it's joints, definitely, or something's going on. But yeah, muscular wise,
it also could be, I guess, if you are if you're new to training or you're changing things up, trying new things, you're going to be sore, and it's going to take weeks before your body kind of adapts to that. I think you've just got to push through, make sure you're not, like you said, make sure you're not overexerting yourself, because it sounds like that could be either.
It sounds like that person's just pushing too hard, too much, too often.
So what are some of the biggest mistakes you see people making in the gym, and how can they be avoided?
It would be lifting too light or lifting too heavy.
Right.
That's probably something I think I see often. People underrating themselves, what they can actually manage. I see it quite a lot with younger, male or female, high school kids.
That'd be really common, eh? Underrating themselves would be huge.
100%, and kind of really, really just doing the bare minimum, and then just never really having that confidence to push. And then you get the guys who have been there, they're I don't know what you'd even call it. Well, they're not really a name for them, but they don't have the experience, but then they're not the newbies. Yep. And then they're trying to really they're trying to be 3 years ahead of where they are, and just push silly weights and borderline going to snap something every session.
Yeah.
So just bring it back, aim for good form, and stick to your rep range. That's my advice.
Yep, definitely. I think one of the other big things that I see is people incorrectly setting equipment up, especially machines.
Yep.
That is serious. Only that you might not be getting the right movement done, so you're not going to be getting the benefit of the machine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or you might end up injuring yourself. A good example of that is, say, like a hamstring curl machine. If you don't have your knees at the pivot point, and the pad is too high up your legs, up your legs or something like that, you're making that much harder than it needs to be.
Absolutely.
And you could damage your knees if you do start pushing the weight up, because it's not actually rotating at the point where it should be. So what's really important is that if you do go to the machine, you do go to the gym for the first time, or try a new exercise for the first time, that you get someone to help you set the machine up correctly when you do it. Then obviously do the right amount of weight.
Yes.
Don't sell yourself out, sell yourself short. Cool. What are some funny or interesting moments you've witnessed in the gym? There's too many.
There's too many. Someone got arrested in the gym.
You? Really?
City Fitness Warehouse, there was a couple of years ago. This guy, I think he wouldn't leave.
Right.
And the police actually came in and slammed him on the floor in the middle of the gym, peak hour, 5 o'clock. And it was just, everyone was filming it.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll show you the video later.
Have you got it?
It's online, but it's the funniest thing ever.
Oh, yeah.
Something not so funny. A old PT that used to work there she was a liability. And she set up the power squat, which is, the white hack squat where you can do like reverse hack squat.
Oh yeah, yep.
In the corner. She set that up for her client, and then the client basically like came down to re-rack it. The PT wasn't really paying attention, and the whole machine just went on top of her.
Really?
Because it's got the pivot point that kind of it like pivots like that down, and you stand here and you squat down.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And the whole thing came down her. And like ambulance had to come, and like they got her out of it obviously, but like I think she like dislocated her knee, just. So those are probably the worst and funniest I'd say in the gym. But you get all these gym videos, and you get all these, and then probably the most impressive would have to be seeing someone rep out 5 plates aside. This Samoan dude from Auckland actually had shown
bench press
on bench press, which was just. There was probably a crowd of maybe 30 people's attention he had. And it was just the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. He just, the way that he moved it was, and it was right to the bottom, full lockout. Yeah. Like getting
multiple reps.
Just repping it like you and I would rep out 100. It was just
dangerous.
It was incredible.
That is incredible. Yeah. And and that's, there must be people out there who can rep more than that.
Yes,
too.
Absolutely,
crazy.
Yeah. What about you? What's?
I've seen some of the funny moments for me is just people who are. I find it really funny when people are arrogant and slam the weights down, and things like that. Make a real display. I find it hard not to, because I find I find it really, like, I look at them and I think you antisocial fuck. I hate that. I hate it, but I also, a bit of me just, I have to try really hard not to laugh, because I'm just like, mate, it's just not the right way to go about anything. If you're feeling like you need attention, if you're feeling like you should do that in the gym, you're in the wrong place. It's not the kind of place for that. And I've got, there's a couple of people that come to mind that still do it. And then I see, one person in particular, his partner now does it, and I see her do it, and I'm like, it's caught on, and I'm like, you actually think that's like you own. It's almost like this ownership of the gym type thing. I'm the alpha here, I walk around. I'm the one in charge. And I find that funny, but I think I haven't actually been in the gym and seen any drama go down. Like, I've seen domestics happen in the gym where someone's girlfriend comes in and hits them up about someone they've been texting or something like that, things like that. But I've never seen any equipment fail, I don't think.
I've seen cable snaps before.
Oh, yes, I've seen cable snaps.
Which is that's pretty scary for the person it happened to.
I was in the gym when the earthquake happened here in the second earthquake, and having to get everyone out of the gym and things. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I bet.
We were on the second floor of Les Mills in Ferrymead, and when we got outside, the tilt slab were all kind of on an angle, so we were very lucky the gym actually stayed upright, and the whole floor had collapsed in the group fitness studio. But it was apart from that, nothing really drama filled or crazy. Should I get permission from people in the gym to film myself if they'll be in the background?
Definitely be considerate.
That comes part of this whole gym etiquette thing.
Definitely. And if someone walks in front of the camera when you set up, and you've put your camera in a public location, as in, on like one of the footways, on the other side of a footway, and you're filming you do something, if they walk in front of you, you cannot get mad at that person. No,
you're bottom of the barrel. Like, you're last in line.
Exactly.
Everyone else is using that space, has priority over someone using it with a camera.
100%. Yeah. So that sort of thing. Or if you're filming in an area, let's say there's like a girl doing squats, a woman doing squats next to you, and you suddenly set your camera up and she's in the frame, that's an absolute no-go.
Yeah, you shouldn't
because
be doing that.
You're going to make her feel uncomfortable. And even though you could really not have any bad intentions, but if you've got her, a video of you doing something and there's just a video of her ass in the corner, it might look cool with your mates and it might look cool on your Instagram, but for her, that could really like damage her. She could have had trauma that could have really damaged her, like her perception of being in the gym.
I've seen a girl doing good mornings on the Smith press, and she tied her sweatshirt around her waist to cover her ass while she was doing that. Now you imagine if she was in the shot for someone filming, someone filming, it's like she's been that conscious of people looking that she's done that.
Yeah.
You imagine if someone's doing squats and you're filming, you've got a video of that happening.
Yeah.
That is a huge breach of privacy.
Yeah.
Just because you're in a public place doesn't mean that you have the right to film someone else.
And
so I think it's definitely getting their permission.
That's another one on this topic, which is, this is a super sensitive topic, and I'll probably get so much shit for this. If you dress a certain way in the gym, be expected to be looked at.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing.
Yeah.
And I don't mean, be expected to be, I guess, harassed. There's a big difference between harassed and looked at.
Not acceptable regardless.
But if you wear, with male or female, I know when I wear a singlet and I'm training, not on my usual gym, so I'm training my work, which is City Fitness, and I'm wearing shorts, and I'm a singlet, I'm doing lateral raises in front of everyone, I know I'm going to get looks.
Yep.
And I'm well aware of that. And, it's a cool little ego boost. But if a female is wearing, and you see these videos online, and there's a few people who've called these females out, if they're wearing, a little booty shorts and a little kind of bralette thing, and, you can literally see everything, and a dude, you walk in the gym and a dude just like looks at you, that's on you.
Yep.
That's on you to 100%.
I think whenever anyone picks clothes out for themselves, their aim is to look good.
Yes.
Right? That's just what they do. And when a girl picks out activewear and it's a matching set and it's all skin tight, and she's like, oh, this is going to look really cute, this is going to look good, she's going to get looked at.
Exactly.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So the line really is around, is the attention I'm getting safe?
Yes.
Is the attention that I'm getting reasonable?
Yeah.
Is the attention that I'm getting something I can manage?
Yeah.
If you're in the gym and you look good, you're going to get looked at.
Definitely.
As a skinny dude, the only reason people would have looked at me when I was younger was because I looked like a freak. And I had to acknowledge that. And it obviously made me self-conscious. I didn't want to get my shirt off at the beach or anything like that.
Yeah.
Then I got to the point where I thought I was big.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get my shirt off.
Yeah.
And then I got to the point where I am now, where I don't think I'm anything great or special, but I don't really want the attention.
You got a wicked physique.
Well, you know what I mean? Like I don't want the attention like I did back when I was hungry for it.
Yeah.
So when you won't catch me in a string of singlet now, but I was in them all the time when I was in my 20s.
100%.
And I'm bigger now than I was then.
Yeah.
But I know if I went into the gym in a stringer, I'd have all the dudes that want to look like me looking at me.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. I'm not going to get ogled by chicks. Like, if girls are subtle about how they do that kind of stuff,
absolutely.
if they do it, it's going to be quite subtle.
Dudes think they wear singlets to like make chicks look, but it's the dudes that look.
Yeah, it's the guys that look, and the guys don't even know they're looking half the time, and they get caught 4 times before they break eye contact.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then it's like, a little bit like an awkward moment of like, is this guy, does he like guys? Or
that's right. And there's one particular dude at my gym, he's an Asian dude, and he is, honestly, I know that every time I turn around, he's just going to stare at me, and I can't. I'm like, am I going to break eye contact? And I'm always the one that breaks it first.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck is this guy up to?
Yeah.
But you can't do anything about it. And yeah, sure. If I wore some skin tight shorts and a string of singlet, I've got to be prepared that there's going to be 3 times more people in the gym looking at me. Half of them are going to think I'm something's wrong with me.
If you went into the gym with grey joggers, which obviously show one thing, and you kind of, you had like a tight skin fit t-shirt, and all these kind of uni girls came in, and you're walking around, you're going to get looked at. Yep.
Just like if you shave your head and put a swastika on your arm, you're going to get looked at.
Exactly.
There's a million reasons
you're going to get looked at
in there. Yeah. As a woman, if you dress well and you look great,
100%.
Just expect attention.
Take it as a compliment. Yep. Take it as a, oh wow, I look good, or oh wow, that's like someone saying you look great. And don't take it as a, oh my God, like, why are you staring at me?
Yep.
Because
in saying that, there is no excuse for unsafe behaviour, intimidation, or harassment,
100%.
Yeah. No excuse. I just want abs. How do I get them?
Calorie deficit.
back to the toned question.
No, there's a bit more to abs than that. There is. The more you train your abdominals, they are going to push out a little bit further. Your abdominal walls are going to push out a little bit further, and you are going to create kind of deeper lines and deeper cuts, I guess you could say. Like there's certain people that really have like deep abs, like Raf.
Yep. Yeah. He's built for the main.
I know. Literally, you can dip a glass of water at the top and it'd be like a little maze going all the way down. There's certain people that just have them.
Yeah.
But if you really want to get deep abs, it's just lots of isometric work.
Yep.
And that's really going to build like your real core.
We talked about this a couple of weeks ago too. I remember, like you got the superficial abs which are going to kind of come out with diet.
Yes.
But then if you want some real thickness and depth, they have to be trained. But you actually have to focus on a lot of core strength stuff. That's, I remember my first PT saying to me, if you want abs, do squats.
Yeah.
Squats and deadlifts. And for me being quite skinny and lean, squats and deadlifts have actually, and that was, I guess that would be those would be your core movements, and then to be doing crunches 2-3 times a week and that 100%. Kind of thing's really going to help build them up.
Yeah. I like that with the squats and deads. I used to get quite a lot of clients who I knew were capable. You have to be capable of this, obviously, and not getting them doing so much ab work, but then we'd be doing deadlifts once, twice a week, squats twice a week, and they had really strong abs from that. So it's bang on what you said.
It's a much better feeling too, having a strong core from big compound movements.
Yeah, being able to brace and really bring in through your diaphragm, really hold and really, all of those,
It's a combination too of like dynamic movements and also holds when you are training your abs too. You want to be doing things like prone bridge.
Yes.
Kind of stuff combined with, if you don't have tight hip flexors, hanging leg raises. But otherwise, things like you could put some cable crunches in there, trunk twists with a medicine ball. That kind of stuff.
There's lots of good options.
Butterfly
There's a few ab exercises that are going to work, other parts, like the hanging leg raises are good. But if you're someone who has got really tight hips or has any issues with the hip flexors locking up, then probably don't do them as much because it's basically it's a very hip flexor orientated movement. As you crunch up, when you bring your leg, you're really going to nail and tighten them up. So maybe swap that out if you're that prone to that. Swap that out for maybe like a, even like a leg flutter on the floor. That sort of thing.
And if you are doing those kind of movements, it's quite important that you do stretch.
Yes,
so it's especially because we've all got tight hip flexors.
Yeah, definitely.
In this modern society, we sit down a lot. So it's important if you're training abs and you're using hips to do that, the lower half of the movement, that you are stretching those out.
Definitely. Yeah, stretching's a huge one.
And that applies to everything. Realistically, you should be dynamic stretching. I dynamic stretch between sets. Just a little bit. If it's especially, I love dynamic stretching chest and biceps and things between curls, and it's curls and
how do you find that with your strength? How do you find with your strength?
Well, I actually got told somewhere that dynamic stretching between sets can increase strength on movements by up to 10% or 10 to 15%. And I found I always would do movements like this where I kind of like put my hands back in between bicep curls and that kind of stuff, and just
help lengthen the muscle.
Lengthen the muscle right through the forearm and everything. I find with chest, after I've done flies and things, I'll do some things like that between, like I actually cross them over. And I'll find sometimes I'll do a bit of static stretching between sets with the same things. It's hard to do.
If things get too tight, like you're doing like a pull down of your lats or pull-ups, you just have to kind of really stretch your lats out because they get locked up.
Sometimes go into a dead hang, wide grip dead hang or something between pull downs or pull-ups. Definitely. I think that's actually really important for just maintaining mobility
and safe growth as well, for growth of the muscle.
And I guess the mind-muscle connection to it helps you work out where the muscle is that you're working.
Definitely.
Being able to feel it stretch between sets is a really good way of going, okay, that's what I'm training. Cool. 2 more questions. What are some fun or creative things you use to mix up your workout routine and keep things interesting?
I like to challenge myself on certain things. So, for example, if I'm doing like a leg day and I know that I've got lunges in that session, I will punish myself first with them and I'll get them out of the way. But the other contrary and the other flip side, I will make myself finish on them.
Right.
So it's just good little ways to like really just step you out of your comfort zone. And the best way to do those things is just walk over and start doing it before you know you're doing it. You're doing it. That's right. It's the same as like going to the gym. If If you don't want to go, just start getting ready, get in your car, drive to the car park. Once you start walking up, that's it. You're in.
Yeah, that's it. And once sometimes the best workouts I've ever had have actually been the ones that I didn't feel like going to the gym that day.
I've read that. Yeah.
There's plenty of days where I feel like go and get there and then crash.
It's raining. It's a cold evening night. It's windy, and you might have something like a chick coming over, or your partner's at home cooking a nice meal. You want to go cuddle and but. If you don't go to the gym, they're going to leave you anyway. So no, I'm joking.
No, that's right. And there's something to be said for there's something to be said for those moments. I used to put the weight vest on and get up in the hills when it was a howling, freezing cold southerly, and pushing through that. I always felt so much better when I got home.
And it builds builds character.
Oh, I know. It reminded me of military training, because in the army I never wanted to be out in the cold, freezing cold, doing that stuff. But after I did it, I always felt so good. And then I was so much more resilient. And that's the gym as well. It should just surprise you. Sometimes you surprise yourself. You'll think you're going to have a shit workout and it's great. But as far as mixing it up goes, what do? Personally, I love putting drop sets in on my last couple of sets. That's just my go-to, and I really enjoy. The thing is, I'm a freak though. I really enjoy training.
And enjoy the pain.
And I enjoy the pain. I actually do. Yeah. I get depressed if I don't go to the gym. Yeah. I mean, the longest I think I've missed in 16 years is 3 weeks.
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
Like I can't not now. Yeah. So thinking about it from someone's perspective that doesn't necessarily enjoy training, what could you do to make it more fun? Setting yourself achievable goals is a good one, but I mean that's pretty boring when it comes down to it. Like, it depends what you like. Are you goal orientated? Is it more a social thing for you? There's a lot of different aspects to training and things that you can do to make it better. But learning to love the pain is the main one.
Make it playful, making it fun.
Yep.
And not by playful, I don't mean kind of being lazy, but playful as in just trying new things, or saying to yourself, I want to be able to do this many reps on this exercise, which it's more just for like setting yourself little goals, little milestones to hit.
Just remember too, the more capable you become in the gym, the more you'll enjoy it. Most people, when they first start and they don't feel strong and they don't feel like they look strong and they don't, they're not necessarily visually reflecting what they're doing, it's going to be frustrating. It's going to be tough. It's not going to be motivational. But when you start seeing results and you start enjoying it and you're not as sore the next day and you're kind of like, I actually feel strong and conditioned here, you're going to enjoy it a lot more. That would be my take on that. What's your advice for someone who is just starting out with a fitness routine and may feel intimidated or overwhelmed?
A great way to do it, I say this to a lot of clients, is grab the things you need. See if there's like a studio, if there's like a ride studio or a HIIT studio or a little corner in the gym. If you're in a smaller gym, a lot of those gyms don't have it. And just find yourself a little corner, set yourself up, put your headphones on. Other little tricks you can do, wearing a cap, pulling the cap down a little bit. Yeah. I know a lot of gyms are kind of opposed to hoodies and stuff, but pulling the cap down a bit and just find your own little corner and just don't worry about what people are thinking. Don't set yourself up slap bang in the middle of the gym in the mirrors until you feel confident to do that. Yep. I think there's different ways of pushing yourself. There's pushing yourself in the gym out of your comfort zone by you're dying on a leg press. But then, for example, if it's something where you're just genuinely scared and want to get your confidence up, don't put yourself in that position of just frightening yourself to death. And then someone could be a dick there who, you'd hope not, but someone could say something and then that'll really just throw you off. So just build your confidence up in your own bubble. That's what I say. Yeah, this goes back to the music thing as well. If you've got headphones on that are noise cancelling, and you've got your favorite tracks playing, that's going to be a big one for your confidence. It's calming. It's going to help you. Obviously try and avoid the big groups of people and the equipment that's being used most. If you do, don't be afraid to approach people. I mean, I've got a bit of personal advice on this, and it comes from a place of like increasing your social confidence as well. Don't be afraid to approach people in a gym, because it is a public place and it's managed. There's staff there to keep you safe and everything like that. So
Like you can go up to someone and say, hey, do you mind, can I just ask you how to use this piece of equipment? Or can do you have a second just to show me this? Or could you please give me a spot on this? I haven't done it before.
Definitely.
Making yourself vulnerable in those situations is a good thing. And if the person reacts rude, fuck them.
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, just move on to the next person.
Yeah.
And, or, do it on your own. Wait, move on to someone else. There's going to be someone eventually, statistically, there's going to be someone who will be like, yeah, absolutely. And you might find you come across someone like yourself who's new, who is like, well, why don't we work in and make this happen and let's see what we can do.
Definitely.
Putting yourself out there is going to be the best way to build confidence in that kind of situation. You're just going to have to be prepared to take the hits if there is rude people
for sure
in that situation. But yeah, zoning out with a bit of music, that kind of thing. Try not to go at peak times.
Off peak, that'd be a great one. Yeah.
If you remember, at a gym that's 24 hours, you've got all day, any day. I mean, it's often after peak times, it drops right off.
Yeah.
So if you were to say peak times 7 in the morning or 6:30 in the morning till like 7:45 or 7:30, I don't know, is that roughly peak time?
Yeah, so most gyms, I'd say, if you can go around that like 9 to 10:30, 11, that's normally when it's quite quiet.
That'd be very quiet
before the lunchtime rush.
Yep.
And then normally 2 till 3:30 before the school kids come out. That's normally a real good one as well. Yeah,
you find gyms are really busy from about 5:30 through till 7:30. Kind of that, and every gym's going to be, because the majority of people on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday between 5:30 to 7:30 is just peak time. You can always go later in the week. It's another option.
Early mornings on a weekend normally can be quite quiet, so if you go, depending which gym you go to, but you can go 6 a.m, 6:30 a.m, it's normally pretty quiet. Yeah, and I would also to encourage you to network outside of the gym as well. If you can get onto even forums or online groups, there'll be plenty of groups out there to discuss this kind of stuff. You can talk about your training journey and get some confidence from other people that are in the same position. You can also, as long as you go into the gym with a plan too, it's very hard for someone who's just starting at the gym if they go in there with no idea what they're doing. If you have something structured, say this is another reason to get a PT. If you go in there with something on paper that you know which machine you're approaching first, if that one's busy, another one that you can substitute, that's going to be really important. And it's going to make you feel less overwhelmed, because as soon as you get in there, you know where you're going and what you're doing. Definitely.
Cool. So that's all the questions for us. I've just got some final questions for you, Tom, just to continue telling us a bit about yourself. So what are 3 books you'd recommend to the audience and why? And if you don't have books, they could be audiobooks, they could be videos, movies, documentaries.
I would say it really depends if it's fitness related.
Doesn't have to be.
Or if it's like lifestyle. It's very interesting. That's a good question. Just
something that you think has been important for your growth as a person. It doesn't necessarily have to be gym related.
I listen to quite a bit of Grant Cardone.
Oh, yep. So sell or be sold.
Yeah, Mr. 10X.
Yeah.
So he's got some, and that's definitely, I'd say, more to lifestyle / kind of money orientated. It's not so much fitness.
That's all right. It's all personal growth.
It's a good one. That's. I'm not, honestly, I'll be honest, I don't read a lot of books.
I wondered. I don't want to blindside you.
I don't read a lot of books.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's maybe I like to take things from people directly versus reading them. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. No, that's cool.
And obviously, of course, Josh Townsend's podcast.
Yeah, now you're on it. Cool. Okay, no, that's fine. If someone wants to contact you for training advice or to book in with you, what's the best way to do that?
Through my Instagram, it's probably the quickest. Just Tom Lowe PT.
Yep. How do you spell Tom Lowe?
So it's TOM and that's LOWE and then PT for personal training.
No worries.
And you can also find me on my website. It's tomlowpt.com, I think it is.
Yep.
I'll double check.
No worries. And your contact details will be on the site, obviously.
Yeah.
Sweet. What do you think the world will look like in 5 years?
I think everything will be accentuated when it comes to the fitness. Fitness is going to be really pushed. People are going to really realise.
More so than it is now?
Yeah, a lot more health conscious.
Yeah.
people are going to kind of start to realize that you've got one life and you can't just burn it up like back in the day. And people are going to also realize that you've got a set amount of time and use your time wisely.
Good. Yeah, it's very wise. Yeah, God, I don't know what it's going to look like in 5 years. It's moving so fast.
It's moving incredibly fast.
Cool. So if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Push harder earlier.
Right. Yeah, and just all aspects of life?
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Just push harder earlier.
Business, fitness, everything.
Be kinder and more patient even when you're in a bad state.
Which is tough.
Which is hard.
It's fucking tough.
And it could be to anyone. And holy shit, probably the biggest one is family. Yeah. Don't give bullshit excuses. You know, your family lives in the North Island. Yeah. You know, and you go spend $110 on the MDMA with your mates on the weekend, book a fucking flight, go see your mum, you know, go see your dad. Yeah. Your sister's got a dance rehearsal, just show up. Yeah. Just because when, you know, parents have been and gone, that MDMA that you spent $110 on the weekend isn't going to give you any memories apart from, you know, probably some mental memories issues later. You know,
if those memories even come back.
Yeah, exactly. If they come back. Family, friends, and probably my main bit of advice: surround yourself with the right people.
Yes,
because surrounding yourself with the wrong people will fuck your life. Really will fuck your life. And I've been lucky. I've been caught up in the wrong people multiple times, but I think my heart's pulled me out of that. And allowed me to be like, hang on a minute, this is not right. This is not right. This is not the right thing. And just biggest thing is just like, you know, if you do something that's like bad, just think for a second, is it worth it? That's probably
that's really good advice. I don't know what I'd say to my 18-year-old self. I need to write a book. I need to write a book of rules. Cool. If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
Being happy and always looking at the positive in every situation. And talking way too much. So I've got another question to add. It's not in here, but something I want to ask you. Would you rather be smart, attractive, or funny? Smart? Yeah. I'm always really interested in how people answer that question. Old me would be.
It's tough.
Would be what the second one? It was.
Smart, attractive, or funny? Yeah,
the second one would be old me, would be like attractive.
Attractive, same. That's the old me as well,
But now as, things moving forward, I think being smart is like an insane quality. And I think that's also an insane quality that I've also now realised actually in like partners even is a massive thing.
Intelligence is important.
Looks really they get you so far. They really do.
I know. You know. I think smart is a smart choice. Do you know what I mean? And I think as a species, intelligence is our niche. And to be successful in life, whether that's socially successful or anything, is going to come really down to how smart you are.
Definitely.
Like obviously attractiveness does get you a certain distance in life as a male or female.
Absolutely.
But if you're stupid, it's obvious, you know.
100%.
And sense of humour, although people like having you around, it's not everything.
Exactly.
So just before we go, because that's everything now, just wondering if you had anything else you'd like to add, or
no, it's been great. It's been fantastic. It's you definitely challenged me on a few really good questions actually.
So just so you guys know, I didn't give Tom any heads up as to what the questions would be or anything like that. This has all been on the fly.
Absolutely blindsided. I think that's the best way.
It is definitely. So no, I want to thank you again for coming on.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's been great, and we'll definitely get back into it soon.
Definitely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Thanks, man.
Cheers.